boyfriend. I was like, ooh, what's that noise? Hey, yep, it's dipping again today because after last night, I guess I should say hi first. Hi, welcome. It is Sunday, May 17th. I'm on the last dump day. The mega readings are over. I was going to pull the SKT and the Wizard of Locanesha cards today, but then I was like, why not just use the dice? I'm actually. One second. I'm going to try not to use my cheat sheet, but I'm going to pull it up just in case. I'm actually probably gonna have to use it because I only know like the beginning and the end. I get lost in the middle sometimes. But yeah, after the star card fell into the water yesterday, I was like, I need to change this up. Let me turn the Bluetooth off on this real quick. Ooh, this looks so silky. Looks so silky. Okay. And I'm going to put my peaceful meditation playlist back on just because it gets me right. I'm doing my foot soaking. This will be the last day. For us to, I think I am going to go back to like doing it at least once or twice a week. And I guess if I don't set up to record, it will be less inconvenient. But I might continue to do it every day actually, because convenience doesn't sound like a good enough excuse to me. But yeah, I'm gonna try to go right off the dice. Don't really have anything planned today. That part is over. I did the last mega reading. I didn't see a YouTuber in my dream last night, so that's cool. Also, didn't sleep very much last night, so that's not cool. At first, I wasn't, and it's like if I'm just in the bed, I'll be exhausted. But if I actually like sit up or get up, then I'll be fine. So yeah, I just got up not too long ago. Again, I'd like to do these foot soaking meditations first thing in the day because I found for me that if I meditate earlier in the day goes better. And that was a whole trial and error. Not error, but just something I discovered last year. Ooh, starting with the blue dice. Actually, I'm gonna put these somewhere where I won't lose them. So, well, that's how we'll do this. Um, but yeah, no YouTuber in the dream last night. The dream was actually interesting. Sometimes I have these dreams where it's like an all you can eat buffet. And then I wake up so hungry. But I'll have these dreams where it's like all you can eat. But it's like I get there late or I get there right before closing. And sometimes it's like there's this little store. But last night it was weird because it was like, and I think it was different dreams because I kept waking up. First, I went to bed at like 2 something, woke up at like 5 something. I'm like, oh my gosh, are you serious? No, it was like 6 something actually. Because I remember I sent Corinda a message and I was like, ooh, more than 3 hours, but a little less than 4. And then I woke up at 7 something, 8 something, 9 something, 10 something. I was like, okay, so I'm not going to sleep tonight. That's fine. But it was like I guess a food court type place. And I was trying to find a room and it's like I was walking around in circles. I saw my grandma at one point, I think. In another dream I saw my little brother and my aunt, one of my aunts, my auntie. Um, and I saw I'm just like walking around. There's a bunch of like circle tables with like chairs at them. So I'm a fairly big dude, and so I'm like trying to like squeeze in between. Sometimes I'm like looking, I'm just walking around, walking around, walking around. Towards the end of the one of the first ones, I like finally made it close to the food, and I was like, I saw something. It was like a little bit of bacon and like some eggs and stuff, and wasn't nobody in the line, so I just grabbed the plate and I like started putting stuff on. But I guess I was going the wrong way because then someone else came up, and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me." And she was like, "Oh no, it's fine." And then for some reason, after I grabbed, it was like 3 strips of bacon in the thing, and I grabbed 2 strips, and I tried to walk by her, but for some reason, I was just like bumping into her, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." And she was like looking at me like, "What is your deal?" But it was like a little bit of food. Wasn't even that much food out. But I saw the breakfast food, and I was like, okay, I can't pass up breakfast food because breakfast is my favorite meal. Uh, and then there was another part of the dream. It was a different dream, but it was the same setting. But this time it wasn't a food court. It was just like all those tables. It's just this large area with serving stations that are very circular, right? And then the tables are circular. And so I was going to a class, and I don't remember what it was. And I was kind of sort of following other people, but kind of sort of not. Because I was like going in a direction, and then if somebody came in front of me and they were going in the same direction, I would kind of sort of follow them to be like, oh, maybe we're going to the same class. I don't know. But then they would stop, and I was like, okay, guess we weren't going to the same class. But I'm like, there's no classrooms. It's just like this open area. Let me turn this down a little bit. There's just this open area. And then I look up, and they have it's like electronic signs, and they're like, class this number right here. But it would like show that what that area was designated as, but then it would scroll through like all of them, and I was like looking up trying to find where I was supposed to go. I don't think I ever made it to where I was going. I think I woke up beforehand, but I don't know. It was interesting. I guess that was breakfast before class. But yeah, no YouTubers, nothing extremely interesting. Some stuff I don't really remember. Let's just get into this. I don't really have anything to dump today, if I'm being completely honest. So, but I said I was gonna do this. So, oh, my hands are getting warm. Maybe something will come out. Let's see. So, ooh, is that the devil? It is the devil Aquarius number 75. Let me see if I can put this up so it don't move. There we go. So 75, 15, 11, 3, 2, and 7. That's the crown, the sacral, air, the devil, and Aquarius. 75 is that the scholar of soul, the initiative souls. I'm using my cheat sheet. I know I have to. I know I was gonna have to grab my phone. This is shame. This is shame. I guess I don't use these too much, so I don't know what this video is gonna be about. For warning, probably a lot of nothing. Excuse me. 75 is the Scholar of Souls. I had it right the first time. The Scholar of Souls. This is interesting. And I keep talking about daily upload number 4 that has no audio, but the Sage of Souls actually came out in that video. And I almost thought it came out again because 77, but that 7 is corresponding to something else. So we have the Scholar of Souls, we have the Sacral Aquarius, the Devil, and the Crown. Let me make sure. Yeah, that's air, which is more Aquarian energy. Oh, that's interesting. So this is all about. I feel like this is the blue set, which is related to truth, because it's like third eye. It's like a third eye blue, more than a throat blue, but it could be either one. But I feel like this is all about the space of the mind and our intuition, because the crown is an open portal a lot of times. And a lot of times people will receive through that and not even necessarily be aware of it. And of course, the gray set comes out immediately after this, but the gray set ain't all bad. It can be good, but it's like when our chakras are healed and aligned, then we can be more aware of that, and we can be open to receiving things that aren't. It's like we can be more aware of what we receive, and we can be more intentional about it too. But when it's not, it's like we're always receiving, right? Because it's like you could be. Because let's say that that even if you aren't necessarily, if your chakras aren't balanced, I'm gonna not try to mince words today because I lose trains of thought. I'm gonna just say it how it is today. So like even if your chakras aren't balanced, like even if your intuition isn't fully online, and even if you aren't trusting and listening to your intuition, your conscience is still there, right? Like Jiminy Cricket is still there. And so you still receive. You still get these ideas. You still get these thoughts that come to you. I'm like trying to make sure I'm looking at the camera, but the light is like right there. So you still get these like thoughts and ideas. Maybe not so great thoughts, maybe great thoughts, right? Even when you weren't or aren't in a space of like spiritual awakening, even when you're not awakened, right? But I think the thing here is that in the space of the mind, because we have air here and Aquarius, which is very, I feel like I always say the word cerebral, and I wouldn't necessarily say Aquarius is cerebral, um, but I would say that Aquarius like thinks ahead. And it may not always be the most like quote unquote logical with Aquarius, because then you get into the space of Uranus, which is all about change, right? Where's that little light? There it is. You get into the space that's all about change. And I feel like Libra is more so an energy of like kind of sort of going with the flow, not disrupting the status quo too much. I'm like, where is that? I keep losing it. Maybe I should turn that down. And Gemini is just kind of like all over the place. And Gemini is the in between, but I feel like Aquarius is really that like patterns of thought that will break the mold, right? It's logical, but it isn't necessarily fitting within the confines of society, but it makes sense to Aquarius, right? But I feel like this speaks to maybe unspoken desires. Honestly, the feeling I'm getting is that like, and I'm trying to like explain it before I say it, and that's something I get stuck in, and then I get lost in the explanation, and then I don't even remember what I was about to say. But it's basically like you may be getting these thoughts that are telling you to act on these desires that may or may not be of your highest interest. I mean, the devil energy came out, so it may not be of your highest interest, and that's what I was trying to get to with like your crown is always open. Like it may be like barely open, or it might not be open to the point where like it's open. It's like when you ziplock shut a bag, but you don't do it all the way, and then there's a little bit of whatever, and then the thing inside the bag goes bad because there's like a little pocket of air that got in or out. It may decay at a slower rate, but it's still going to decay. And you're like, well, I thought this was like vacuum sealed. And it's like, no, the seal was broken, right? And that can work in the means of like your conscience, right? The conscience, I would say, is a lesser intuition. It's not really, but we kind of sort of treat it as if it is in a way. But this could also be like not great thoughts, right? What do they call them? Like intrusive thoughts, right? You get intrusive thoughts, you get thoughts that aren't intrusive. You ain't got to be whatever to get an intrusive thought. You really don't. Hopefully, you don't act on it, right? But it's like it's coming in through that space. And both of these are actually on the feminine side. So the masculine side isn't involved at all. So your mind may be, you may be like thinking a lot, coming up with a lot of ideas. I feel like Aquarius is also an ideas energy. Ideas that may pan out, ideas that may not pan out. But with the sacral here, I feel like, and especially, it's just giving me like Venus retrograde type vibes. Like you may be getting thoughts to do things that you don't want to do. Maybe like reach out to people that you actually don't want to reach out to, don't want to reach out to. It's just something about something half baked, something not thought all the way through, and a thought that may not be of your highest interest. And I feel like I've talked around that like a million different ways, but it's just like getting these thoughts that may not be in your highest interest, and then it leading to you doing things that may not be in your highest interest. Maybe lots of like, it's not like a distraction. It is like a distraction, but I can't think of the word. Lots of thoughts coming up to distract you from doing whatever it is that you should be doing, and putting you in a space of slowed and delayed progression. But with the Scholar of Souls here, I feel like it's all about tapping into the truth of who you are. And the scholar isn't the initiate. The scholar is night energy, right? So it's someone who is informed. The degree of what they're informed, right, it varies, but they are informed to some degree. And the soul is all about the truest part of self, right? And so maybe you're coming into these spaces where it's like you're having these thoughts, but now you may be in a space to question those thoughts, or to question what you're doing, or to question the things that you're creating, questioning maybe issues around intimacy. I guess with the devil also being here, this could be a sacral and a crown chakra out of balance, right? That could be issues around intimacy and issues around honestly just acting in your highest good, or these sort of trains of thought that lead you along paths that may be darker, right? It could be lots of worry and fears and anxiety, and then your brain sort of creating these situations and getting you to perceive certain things to validate that when that may not necessarily be the truth. But your brain could be very good at validating whatever you want it to validate, which is why, it's good to, one of the first things that, you do when you sort of begin to heal is you begin to take power and ownership over your thoughts, and at least over the lengths to which a runaway thought can have you just like on a wild goose chase, right? So with the Scholar of Souls, though, it's like you have some idea of who you are at your core. And I think this is a call to begin to use that and validate whatever it is that you're thinking and whatever it is that you're feeling led to do and led to create, right? I guess doing is more of the solar, but the sacral is really that space of creation itself, which is the bed or the sky in which the sun moves, right? It's like the sky itself is the sacral, and the sun is that solar plexus. And so you need to look at the space in which the space behind the space in which you act. Like what motivates your actions, basically. Thank you. Goodness. I ain't slept much, okay? You need to look at what motivates your actions. And now you have this with the Scholar of Souls. I feel like you have this greater awareness of what actually aligns with you and what doesn't, right? Like yesterday, I was sent down this whole little, like, almost mini rabbit hole. And I was like, I talked about it in the Pisces. I had to make sure I was on the right channel for a second. I was like, oh, I hope I'm on the right channel. I am. I talked about it in that one, and it's like, I started to get impatient, and then impatience led to frustration, and the frustration led to a bit of anger. And then I was kind of sort of running with it low key, but then I was like, wait, hold up, stop. This isn't me. this isn't how I actually feel about this. And I'm not going to operate in this space while I'm doing something else. Because if I do that, the it's going to taint the energy around the thing that I'm creating and I'm building and I'm working on. And this is not an energy to bring to this situation. I don't have to go to this. And I was talking about how I procrastinate a lot, but sometimes I'm motivated by frustration. Like if I get frustrated with somebody, then it's like I go and rage do homework, or I go and rage clean, or I go and rage do whatever I needed to do. And it's not like a rage. It's just like it's out of frustration. And that's not a good space to create anything out of. And so in that Scholar of Souls energy, I was like, hold up, because something in my soul was like, hold up, wait, no, let's clean this up, let's address this, because this is not the space in which to move forward. And you know that. Like these feelings that you're feeling right now don't even speak to how you truly feel about the situation. Like, yeah, you may be a little bit impatient, you may be a little frustrated, but like, who are you really frustrated with? Who are you impatient with? Where are these feelings of frustration and impatience even coming from? And honestly, for me, it's like I feel things about to change and I feel things about to shift and something is about to happen. I don't know what it is, but in this space of anticipation, I'm starting to get like impatient sometimes. And it's not for me to do that, right? And so it's kind of sort of very much that type of feeling and vibe. That took a long time to get to. Am I gonna go through all of these? Okay, sure. Um, ooh, now these I can barely read. So we got two, which is sacral again. The sacral came out again. Be careful the space from which you create is the warning from this. And use the truth of who you are to validate whether you are in an emotional state that will lead you while you're in that space of creation. Because again, the sky is like the sacral and the sun is the solar plexus. And so, well, let's say like the atmosphere or whatever, right? Because the atmosphere sort of protects us from some of the sun's harshest rays, right? You got ozone, and you got all kinds of other stuff that deflect and break off and reflect. And then it's like once some of the greenhouse gases, what are those? Let me not get, I'm going back to science classes I took a long time ago, but it's like the rays from the sun penetrate through, right? And it comes down to the earth. It warms things up. You know, we're not a frozen rock. And then it bounces off and it gets sent back up. But if the ozone gets too high, I believe, then it keeps those rays from escaping. And so it heats up things even more because the light comes down to warm things up, to give life, to give light, to breathe life into the planet. And then when it comes time for those rays to escape, so we don't get, roasted, so we're not like Mercury. Like, is anything on Mercury that close to the sun? That planet burn up, right? Excuse me. Like they say that Venus used to be like Earth, but when the sun expanded, it basically cooked. And, now it's dusty. It used to be green, but now it ain't because everything got cooked. And so the rays come in, and when they try to escape, they hit this ozone, and then they're reflected and refracted back down instead of going through and then going wherever they go after they hit Earth. I don't know, right? And so it's like that is that atmosphere, those different layers of whatever, the ionosphere, the troposphere, all that, the atmosphere. That's like the sacral space, and then the sun is like the solar plexus, right? And so it's like if our atmosphere isn't right, then it's going to lead us to do things that may go to extreme and may go to excess. It's all about the space from which you create. It's the foundation behind it. And if something doesn't line up with your soul, especially the emotional space you're in, it's going to put layers on top of whatever you're creating. And for what I'm building and creating and doing in my life right now, for the movement I'm trying to have, I don't need it rooted in any kind of frustration, any kind of impatience, anything like that. I was like, I can work this hard and be motivated by love. Honestly, that was my mindset, right? Because like out of love of self, out of love for family, I'm doing this so I can be in a space to better provide for myself and for the people I care about. And so why not be motivated by that instead of frustration and all this other stuff that may be coming up in times where, we locked up and we locked in with people. Number one, like just anything that could be leading to you feeling stuck, right? Because if you feel stuck, you're going to get irritated and agitated. And then if there's people around you, they just kind of sort of catch it, right? Excuse me. And maybe this is why I was like, I really need to get heavy into the meditations. I've been doing my foot soaking meditation every day this week. It's Sunday. Listening to my peaceful meditation music, just really making sure I'm in a space to be able to fully do whatever. And I don't know if I would have been able to do that, right? And that's the thing about catches and things that just like build up in the system, the energetic system, is that it then gets you to like, it's like you're extra irritable, you're extra this, you're extra that. If you would have gotten a full night's sleep, you wouldn't have taken it that way, you wouldn't have reacted that way. If you weren't so deep in your feelings, you wouldn't have heard it that way, because now you're hearing things and like people aren't actually trying to attack you, but you feel attacked because whatever space you're in, it's like it's time to clean all that up. And if you can't clean it up, when you go to do something or create something or build something, it's like check it before you put it out there. That's all of that right there. Now we have the sacral here again. What's this? Oh, this set is the High Priestess. That's another two. We got two so far. This set is a yellow on a gray, and it is difficult for me to read sometimes. What's this? Is this Aquarius again? Yep, Aquarius again. Another 11. Okay. Oops, no. Mm-mm. Nope, now it moved over to Capricorn. So this is Saturn retrograde because I tried to put the 11 down and it rolled over to the 10. Saturn is going to be moving from Aquarius to Capricorn. Okay, so Capricorn is really trying to come out. And I'm trying to set this on Aquarius because Aquarius is how it fell out. So there we go. Sorry, Capricorn. I'll say this is just a Saturnian energy. It's Saturn uh, going from Aquarius to Capricorn to Aquarius to Capricorn. What is this? This is the heart space. So we have the sacral and the heart. I don't know why the other one didn't want to stand on there. And then we have 40. Make sure I don't move this. 40. 40 might be like the two of, what did I call it? Oh, what did I call it? Did I put it on here? It's two of earth energy, but I can't remember what I called it. I said it was 40. It's not the two. I need to like write all these down. I got other stuff to work on right now. It's a little bit lower on the priority list, but it will be done maybe in July because I'm gonna have all my schoolwork done by June, and then I'm going. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going. 36, 7, 8, 9, 40. So that's the 5 of Earth. Where did I put it? Oh, it's right here. Realms. Yes. It's the 5 of Realms. I thought it was Realms, but then I was like, Realms? What? That doesn't make sense. It's the 5 of Realms. And I'll try to explain. Try, emphasis on the word try, and then fire. Okay. So it's the sacral, the heart, fire, the 5 of Realms, and Aquarius again. The 5 of Realms speaks of in between places and in between spaces. Right. It's sort of the halfway point between 0 and 10, or 1 and 10. And the realm is all about things that can be experienced and felt and seen. It's materialistic, something that can be built upon, a world between worlds. Aquarius here that went into Capricorn. I was like, is there any air here? This is the gray set. I know, I already said that. But this is a Saturnian energy, right? And Saturn is all about time, karma, boundaries, restrictions, limits, things like that. And Aquarius is sitting at the cusp of Capricorn, moving back to Capricorn, but it's in Aquarius. And so Saturn is going back, every retrograde planet is going back to a space that it was in before. But I believe Saturn is the only one crossing into a different sign. And so there's almost an element of fear here. It's like you're sitting at the five. Okay. So in chemistry, bear with me. I wish I had my. Actually, give me 1 second. I'm gonna grab it. I gotta do this slow so I don't knock everything over. I'm gonna show y'all. Come fly. I don't know who these are for, but this is. These are general messages. If they resonate, they resonate. If they don't, they don't. 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 Don't. They don't. They don't. They don't. If they don't, they don't. They don't. These are general messages. What is that? Pop goes the weasel. Surprise! Oh, okay. All right. Sometimes I go on random tangents and like that, and then they actually lead me to somewhere I was supposed to go. Like I accidentally uploaded a video on my legacy channel, and I meant to do it here, but after it was up, I was like, the notification probably already went out if anybody hit the bell, so I'll just leave it there. Um, Hold up. I'm gonna erase this anyway, so I'll just create a new page and do this. Do that thing. Give me 1 second to adjust the grid lines to help me out. Okay. Then I'll zoom in. Make it bigger. Boom. Oh, hold up. Let me just full screen this because I don't know if I got any details on here, but it don't hurt to do this just in case. Oof. Okay. Y'all see that? Maybe not. Okay. All right. I don't know what that was about. I don't know where it just went, but I'll just make this even thicker. Thicker than a snicker. Hey. Don't mind me, yo. Don't mind me. You know what? Shoot, I might just go for the whole big old. Yeah, let me go for the thick pen. I don't necessarily like this color for this because it's a little harder for me to see, but yeah. Bear with me, y'all. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not. You are everything millions could wish for. That girl must be mad. You know nothing of madness. No, this ain't perfect. But you can see it. Okay. Actually, let me turn this upwards because then this will be easier. Welcome to class, folks. This is how I do my homework. Okay, so you see this? You see where I drew the lines? Those lines are the fives, right? Oh man, I can't necessarily get too much closer. Oh wait, I can hold it like this. Kind of, sorta. Kind of, sorta. Man, I wish I had a thing. Anyway, let me try to do this. Boom. Maybe. Sure. Okay. Sorry. No, we ain't doing that. All right. So here we are at the five. And this is going to be backwards. I ain't even going to do nothing. So we're sitting here at the five. And so in chemistry, or in anything really, this is like a maximum. And so things always fall downhill. It's not even chemistry, it's just gravity. Let's think of gravity. Things naturally go downhill, right? And so we're sitting or we're approaching the space of five at this in between space. And depending on which side we begin to make progress on, it's like gravity will pick up our efforts and you'll just naturally go down, right? And so this is that in between space. And Saturn, looking back, it's like maybe there's a bit of fear because Saturn, like all the retrograde planets are retrograde, like they're all moving backwards, right? But Saturn is the only one crossing cusp and going back into its previous sign, and that's why like the 11 kept going to 10, and I couldn't get it to sit on 11. So I'm trying to force it to at least stay in the same spot, if not continue to move forward. But it keeps falling back to where it previously was. And the dangerous thing about that is if you're sitting at the five, a little bit of momentum, a little bit of a direction is going to be enough to push you down that hill, right? And so it's like, this is, I'll just say this is Cap. What's Capricorn? What Capricorn look like? Something like that. And this is Aquarius. This is forward. Here's Saturn. Oh, I can do one better. Actually, let's see if I can. Ooh. I'll just do the planet with a ring on it. And I'll try, I believe it's that. I should know the glyphs. And Saturn is actually going backwards. And I'll put an RX on it. This is Saturn. Just, okay. Right. Boom. Did a little bit more. If y'all can even see it. So y'all see at the top. Here we go. Now I can see. I got the little RX in there and the backwards arrow because it's moving back to Capricorn. That's a really lazy Capricorn. I can do that a little bit better. Oh, ooh, ooh. Okay. I can do that a little bit better. Something like that. I ain't got them in front of me, so I'm trying to do it off of memory, right? So anyway, it's like a little bit like we're sitting at the five here. You can't even see it. All right. We're sitting at the five here. And if we move back even a little bit to like here, I'll put this RX, it's going to push us all the way back down this hill. Like this is the five of realms. We're sitting in between worlds, the world that we wish to live in and the world that we're kind of sort of in now. And your karma, the cycles that you played in the past, it's almost like if you haven't broken those cycles, it's going to be even easier for it to nudge you back to where you just come from. It's like Saturn is looking back now and it's moving backwards. And your eye needs to be focused forward because, again, it's like a little bit with the five of realms, you're like in between the five and the 10. You can go crashing all the way back down. And it's like I mean, if you go all the way back down, it's like the one of Pentacles was, let's say you hit the zero of Pentacles, where it's like you bankrupt. Aren't none of these are going to be short or simple or straightforward, are they? It's fine. And this is the gray set, and the dice are what they are. I keep feeling like, oh, I don't want to project onto the dice, but every time this color comes out, it's something not great. And then we have the space of the sacral and the heart, right? So Saturn being the planet of karma, forgiveness has been an oracle card that's come out. Uh, it's come out a lot. Forgiveness. If you don't have forgiveness in your heart for yourself, for other people, if you can't move past, let's say that there are these karmic cycles that you are in, and let's say that recently your behavior has been highlighted to you, or the way that you contribute to the situations that you found yourself in has been highlighted to you. You need to forgive yourself of the roles that you played in those situations, and you need to move on. Even if it's somebody, like it could be you, it could be somebody else, whoever. Because if your heart ain't right, it's going to be, again, I feel like it's going to be, it's like Saturn is retrograding. So naturally, it's going to be going back, right? So the natural tendency is already backwards, but you're sitting at the cusp on top of the heel, right? Like literally on top of the heel. And gravity is going to pick you up. So if you move forward, even a little bit of forward movement right now, like gravity can pick it up and put you in the space that you want to be in, move you closer to the 10 of Pentacles, right? Or because this is the 5 of Pentacles energy. But if you allow like the natural course of action, it's going to get you to fall back and bankrupt at the zero, like below the ace, right? Because the Ace of Pentacles is still good, so that's why you're getting a zero. Maybe it will be an eight. Maybe you won't fall all the way back, right? Maybe it'll be a 4 of Pentacles and you just stingy, or times get rough, right? Maybe it'll be a 3 and you start building all over again. Maybe it'll be a 2 and you'll be like struggling, not struggling, but like juggling things, trying to make ends meet. But like you have the ability with a little bit of forward momentum. And honestly, I'm saying a little bit, but it might be a little bit more than a little bit, because again, things are naturally tending to fall back right now. The element of fire came out, which is all about expression, and it's honestly about the vision. If you can keep hold of the vision in your heart that you want, then it's gonna fuel you to move forward. It's like that fire. Let's say now it's a train sitting on this hill, right? And you're reaching the top of the hill, top of the hill, top of the hill. It's a train, and then as soon as you reach the top, you run out of fuel, right? And so you're just like holding your breath, hoping that the train doesn't go backwards. And let's say that for some reason you have like a kinetic engine, or you have some kind of kinetic spark generator, right? And so since you are moving up the hill, when you're going uphill, you have to work harder. And so the kinetic spark generator thing couldn't pick up anything to give this extra energy. And so you're relying on the fuel that you're putting in. Let's say this is a semi-green train. Like when it's moving, it can keep moving. But whenever it hits a change, an upward change in motive and elevation, then you have to put fuel into it, because this engine, it propagates the movement that you're already making. So now you're at a standstill at the top of the hill. You've run out of fuel. If you can tip yourself even a little bit forward, as soon as you start going down the hill, that kinetic engine will kick in and it'll propagate that movement, and it'll keep you going in the direction that you're going. But if you fall back down the hill, it's like the same kinetic engine pops in, it kicks in, and then it keeps you moving back, right? And even if it could only work in one direction, that kinetic engine isn't going to give you enough juice when the train is naturally by gravity falling back to cancel out that action. And so it's like with that fire, this is the little bit, the vision in your heart, the dreams that you have in your heart, not the dreams in your head and your fantasies and whatever, the ones you actually feel emotionally connected to. And I feel like that may give you the power to, with that switching from Capricorn to Aquarius, it's almost like creating a new future for yourself. It kind of sort of is, because this is the five of realms, and a realm is like a whole experience. It's all encompassing. It's 3D. It's the material everything. It's a whole new life potentially. Right? Potentially. And so it's like you really have the Aquarius is also the star. You really have this opportunity to make a dream come true, create a new future for yourself that's a lot less restrictive, right? Because we're coming out of that Capricorn energy. It's still ruled by Saturn, but it's a lot less restrictive. Right? We got Uranus in here to help bust up. It's like Uranus is the only person that Saturn will actually listen to. Right? Uranus is like, come on, Saturn, don't be a stick in the mud. And Saturn's like, okay, I'll do something crazy and I'll wear the green tie with the red pants today. And you're like, woo! And Uranus is the encouraging friend. It's like, yeah, like pretend like it's Christmas, red and green. Why not? And then Saturn's feeling like, yeah, I'm crazy. And Uranus is like, that's my friend. What can I say? Right? But that's that energy of Aquarius as compared to Capricorn. Because Saturn is still Saturn, but it's like it loosens the reins a little bit. And that's moving forward. What else is down here? The High Priestess, right? Right? Yeah, I forgot about her. How did I forget about the High Priestess? The High Priestess is also here. I feel like I feel like there is this sort of union or unison between the dream in your heart and the vision in your mind. And if you fall into the places that you've been before, maybe you're in the space where you're like, I've been working at this for a long time. I've been in this for a long time. And I was beginning to see daybreak. But what I thought was daybreak was just a helicopter passing by that had its searchlight on. Like I saw the light in the sky and I thought it was the sun for a second, but now it's gone. Um, and again, it's like those cycles. It's like, where is that? When the Fool came out and it crossed whatever, karma crossed the Fool, and I was like, you're just beyond the precipice of these old karmic cycles and you're ready to move forward, but I don't think you think you're quite far enough. And so the old stuff that's already behind you is still enticing you because you haven't put enough distance, right? That's like if you're being chased by somebody saying bad things at you, right? And you shut the door and they're on the other side of the door, but you can still hear them. Like you're going to hear them as long as you don't, like, as long as your back is literally on the door and they're on the other side screaming at you, you're going to hear them. If you put some more distance between you and the door and they can't go past the door, if you put more distance, then you won't hear them and it won't affect you as much, right? But it's like someone is still too close to it to really decide either way. And this is a gray area, so it can go either way. This is kind of sort of wide open. Um, this is the choice that we actually have, right? And I was in the bathroom earlier. Some of my greatest insights come while I'm in the restroom. I think it stems from playing the Game Boy when I was younger, and the bathroom was one of the only quiet places in the house. And so when you really got to focus to beat that tough level, you go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom. I would focus, get in the zone. I would beat it, and then I would come out of the bathroom. So now all of a sudden, maybe the bathroom was always magic, and I just discovered its magic. Ooh, and I was playing Mario. um, but yeah, I was washing my hands, and then it just popped. I was thinking about the whole analogy yesterday. It's like about the smoke signals and the fog that distracts the light from the projector that disrupts the holographic image and stuff like that. And in my mind, or it was later, and I never said it, but I talked about, people in the forest a long time ago. I was like on my legacy channel. I was like, people in the forest, and it's like this fog rolls in, and like everyone is blind and feeling their way through it. And there are going to be some people who navigate through the forest and come out of the forest before the fog lifts, and those people are going to be, let's just say, they're going to be experts at whatever because they made it through the fog before it lifted and before everyone came out of the fog. Um, but it was like, with those smoke signals, while the smoke is so dense, it's like, yes, it disrupts the image being projected, but at the same time, it leaves you in the dark. And so it's like, you don't see the false light, but you don't see the real light either. And so it's like, now you're navigating around trying to find some light. And then that goes back to Yangan Titan. I can't remember where he came out, but it was in a roll the dice because I used these dice actually. I'm holding them in my hand right now, the purple ones, and I used those oracles for that. Actually, no, that's a video that didn't upload. That's the video that didn't upload. So I'll take that back. Never mind. You never saw that video. Um, but anyway, Young Gensi Tan came out and he has like candles for fingers. And so for people who are lost in the dark, he can offer them a light. But people who are in the dark but not lost, his light can serve as a distraction, right? And it's almost that energy of like, if you're already on your path, then it's like, don't stray off of the path just because things got dark. All you got to do is keep moving roughly straight. Kind of sort of all you got to do is like not turn around and start going back, right? It's like sometimes, I guess, if we hit a spot of dark, especially if we're going through a cave, right? Then it's like we want to turn around and go back to where we last saw light. But like if you turn around and go back there, it's going to be dark. Whatever light was there, it's no longer there either. So the only way forward is forward, right? Any direction that isn't backwards is forward. Almost any direction that isn't backwards is forward. Um, and so yeah, it was like, and then it just came to me like, people talk about free will. Well, here's the free will. Everyone's in the dark. Nothing is certain. Nothing appears to be certain, I should say. And now we're in the space of creating and choosing for ourselves, just like it came out yesterday with that Seven of Cups, right? We're creating sort of the path for ourselves moving forward. And I can't remember why I started talking about that. I was in the bathroom and that came to me. I was like, wow, like this is a spot of free will. This is where we choose the direction that we move forward. And this is where we're actually allowed to have a little bit more of a say because things are so uncertain, because systems are just disrupted all over the place, right? If there were a time for us to make any bold decisions moving forward, like now would be the time. And if Taurus is the element associated with the planet Earth, also Venus, but also associated with Earth, Uranus is in Taurus right now. So if Taurus also represents Earth and Uranus is a planet of change, like we have this ability to, and like nobody knows what it's going to look like. No one has to know what it looks like. We got smart people all over the place. If we want something done, there are people who can get it done, but people have to want it done. And if we want something better, it's possible. No one knows what it necessarily looks like right now because we haven't had better. But just because we haven't had better doesn't mean that we'll never get better on a collective level and on an individual level. Just because you've never had better doesn't mean that you won't get better. And it doesn't mean that you won't achieve better. And it doesn't mean that as soon as you hit a dark spot, you immediately run back to the last place you felt some kind of sort of comfort, because like that's moving backwards. And like you're at the top of the hill. If you move backwards, it's like you're gonna trip either way. Are you gonna trip and fall back, or are you gonna trip and slide forward? Right? That's the question there. Now let's look at these. I don't know how many of these I'm gonna do, but oh wow, 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow, that's interesting. And then 68. Wow, I literally have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 68 over here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like take a step. The universe will carry you forward. Jesse is a Taurus. What am I looking for? 68. 64, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's another 5. It's another 5. So we're moving from the 5 of realms to the 5 of souls. And the 5 of realms is all about your physical space, and you're sitting at the cusp. The 5 of souls is about your internal space. And I guess I shouldn't be extremely surprised because the internal space is a reflection of the external space. But we do have the Scholar of Souls that came out first. So I would think that when this actually came out, like, I guess maybe not. Because the Scholar, like I said, it's like the Scholar is informed, but may not be completely informed. So not only are we getting sort of the world that, and it makes sense. Not only are we defining the world that we're going to live in and what our experience is going to be in it, we're also defining who we are. But this is the 5 of souls and not the 5 of essences, right? And so in this definition of who we are, it's like we're defining who we are, but what we're actually deciding is how closely we're going to align with who we actually are on the inside, deep down. And we're sitting at this space where we can come into who we are more fully, or we can go like right back to the shadow, right? It's like that dude in the Matrix that was like, "Oh, real life sucks. Plug me back in, right? I don't care who I gotta sell out. It's a futile. The task is futile anyway." Um, but then also, something else came to mind, and I don't remember. We're deciding how aligned we want to be. Basically, long story short. And there's a little bit less slack, not less lack, less slack, because the Scholar of Souls already came out. So you already know. Now, whether you act like you know or not is completely. You already know. And if you didn't know, you would have some lenience, but you do know. And then it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the 4 is fire. The 5 is the throat. The 6 is the third eye. The 7 is the chariot. And the 8 is Scorpio, I believe. Yeah. Oof. Well, Scorpio, Pluto is retrograde, but Scorpio is all about transformation. You're sitting at the cusp, at the brink of major transformation. And this actually came out yesterday, right? With the wisdom of, oh, no, that actually came out in the Aquarius reading. Sorry. I was like, that came out yesterday. Aquarius got personal transformation. Aquarius actually got 2 Wisdom of Lord Ganesha cards, and I guess this will be a prelude to that. So I followed basically a similar story for the whole Aquarius video. Then at the end, it switched up, right? You wouldn't know that unless you watch the whole thing. But I'm telling you, if you do forever, whatever, for whatever reason, decide to go back, and if you see this first, even though this video is going to be much, much, much longer than that one, but if you do, I don't know if something in here resonates, then that Aquarius might resonate for you. Honestly, the Aquarian energy felt kind of like general-ish. I mean, they're all general. It's a general reading. Anyway, never mind. If you go towards the end, when I start pulling the Wisdom of Lord Ganesha cards, the story changes and it flips. But the theme throughout was just like be cautious and be cognizant, because I feel like you're going to be reaching a breaking point. And this may be something that you're going to choose to walk away from that you might want to revisit, right? And at first I was like, oh, I was feeling like, oh, you might want to come back. So if you do part ways, you might want to leave it amicably. Just be like, you know what? We just spent too much time together. I need a little bit of a break, a little bit of a vacation. I'm gonna get some space. I'm gonna give you some space so we can both calm down and cool down, and then we can come back together and love and remember why we love each other, right? Remember why we enjoy our time at work apart. Or our time with friends, because Aquarius can also be very social and like involved socially as well, right? Um, and if you are if you're an extroverted person and a lot of your sort of stress relief, and if a lot of you connecting to you involves things with other people and connection with other people, then it's going to be strained right now. And lots of things are strained right now, but just because they're strained doesn't mean that they necessarily have to break. But personal transformation came out with that. Um, and so it's kind of sort of the same vibe and the same feeling here, because this is the Five of Souls. You're like 50% aligned, right? And again, it's a snowball, because you're sitting at the five, it has the potential to snowball. So either you'll snowball in the direction that you love, and then you're like, I'm like, it's so wild and so crazy that in the midst of everything kind of sort of falling apart, I made a rash and crazy decision to apply for something, to pursue something that I never would have. But it's like, if the whole world is falling apart, I might as well. And then it's like it actually ends up working out. I'm not going to clear my throat if my throat goes out, because I'm over it. I'm over it. So, throat, if you want to go out, go out. Um, and then when I say that it doesn't, it comes back. Yeah. See, never mind. Let me take me out of it and let me focus before I lose it. And so it's like a little bit could lead you down something that is very fulfilling, and it's fulfilling beyond. It's like deep, deep satisfaction and fulfillment. Like, this is the capability to find something that you're like, this is what I came here for. This is what I was born for. This is what I was created for. And that's this sort of like Five of Souls in between type of energy. And then we have um, the third eye in the throat. So we're out of the sacral now. This may be a different class of people or a different group of people, not a different class. I'm sorry. Uh, but we're out of the sacral, right? So we're sitting at the Five of Souls. Um, I'm getting the feeling that this is all about, because again, it's like, if you do a little bit, there's a possibility. Oh no, not 48. This is 68. It's not 40. We just had 40. Literally just had 40. This tries to roll back to 40. I told y'all that we're interconnected, but I'm keeping this on 68 so I can remember what it was. Quit trying to roll over. Okay. Oh my gosh. Really? There we go. Okay. 68. So if I got to look back at them, I know I remember what it was. But it tried to roll back to 40. I'm like, no, you're not 40, you're 68. But again, 40 was that Five of Realms. 68 is the Five of Souls, and they're interconnected. And it's like, as the Scholar of Souls, whenever you come upon a situation, you're able to see beyond it, right? And like I said, now, and because now, you get a little less slack, less lenient, because you know better. Once you know better, you're expected to do better. And if you don't do better, you can't use ignorance as an excuse, right? Right. If you get a nice judge may be like, this law is really obscure and a lot of people misconstrue it and it wasn't too serious. So, we'll let you off with the warning this time, but now and it's documented that so you can't go to another judge and be like, oh, I didn't know. And it's like, we have the records and you didn't know. Right. That's the type of person who will do the same thing. He'll do, like, if there's a store, right? They'll do something in the store and an employee will come and try to correct them. They're like, oh, I didn't know, sorry. But then, like, low key, you talk to like you do this to like five employees, And then you get the one employee who just like who's like, you know what's really weird? The other day I had this customer that did this, and then somebody's like, what? I have the same customer. And then the other three employees come up because let's say there's a staff meeting for whatever reason, and then somebody's like, well, so we all got these like random different people who did this, and then somebody's like, well, what did the customer look like? And they all describe you, and now there's this whole company policy because of you trying to continuously get over. And now, like, if it is a genuine mistake, you've done it so much that you've ruined the credibility for anyone who actually didn't know because you wanted to continue to get over. And that's very much, and I think it's daily upload number 10. I'm not going to clear my throat. See, I think it was daily upload number 10. It's the one where and there's a daily upload playlist. No, that's Daily Bite number 10. There's a Daily Bite playlist, I think, on this channel in my playlists. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I just linked them off on the Legacy channel, or you can go over to my Legacy channel and look at it. But in pile number 3, I was like, this is the energy of like company policy is adjusting, and you are talking to someone very, very high up in the company. And so you want to make sure that you weren't just getting over on people because you're like, I want to talk to the manager. I want to talk to the manager, thinking that you can convince the manager to let you just continue to get away with whatever you think you're getting away with. And, out walks the CEO or whoever above the manager, very high up. And you're talking to them like they're the manager. And the manager has already informed them on this situation because you do this so much. And that's the thing. Like once people get away and get away and get away, they think they're invincible and then they trip up, they get reckless, and then they end up worse off by trying to take advantage of a you know better. I was like, I don't know why I'm going this far into it, but it's because you know better, right? And once you know better, you're expected to do better. And so you're talking to this person like they're a whole other manager, right? And then the person's like, sir, ma'am, person, excuse me, I'm actually in charge of creating corporate policy. And I just want to let you know that your multiple whatever have been documented. And we are now introducing a new company policy that is going to be established everywhere because you decided to do this. So you ruined it for everybody. We try to be nice and kind and understanding that sometimes you get the wrong item, sometimes you make a mistake, sometimes you eat the whole bowl except one Cheerio before you realize it was a hair in it and you want a refund. But because of you, we can't do that anymore. So thank you for, you know, illuminating to us how easily our systems can be taken advantage of, how easily our kindness can be taken advantage of. And this is the same for people who they get taken advantage of by one too many people. And then they're like, you know what? I'm just not going to help anybody. And then the world loses a light for a period of time or until that person comes back into their charitableness. But the world loses that light because people chose to take advantage of it and shut that person down. Now, does the loss of that light fall onto that person, or does the loss of that light fall onto the world who did that to that person? I don't know. But once you know better, you're responsible for doing better. Uh, but yeah, so it's like once I kind of went off topic, but with the 5 and the 6, with the crown and the third eye, it's like once you begin to come online, you're able to perceive situations in a different way. And the way that you perceive situations is like you speak your truth and you perceive truth. Does this align with my truth? Does this align with my soul? Excuse me, does this feel like something I should do? Now, if I didn't know better, I would think that this is good and I would do it, right? If I didn't know better, if I couldn't see beyond the veil of illusion that you're trying to put over my face right now, then this may be something that I buy into. And then maybe one day you feel like being naive or you feel like being trusting. I'm not gonna say naive. You want to give someone the benefit of the doubt, right? And then it becomes a fool me once, shame on me. No, fool me twice, fool me once, shame on you. No, how does it go? Why can't I even remember? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Yeah, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Because after the second time, I should have known better. You already know better. We're in a fool me 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Fool me 10 times, and it's hopeless. Let me stop. It's never hopeless. But you're able to perceive truth. And you're in a space where you're being asked to. You're able to perceive truth. You're able to perceive whether or not something feels right. And you're being asked to reconcile that and validate that against what is right for you, and then to proceed accordingly. I mean, we have the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're obviously building up to something, right? And now the 7, again, is the chariot energy, which is all about moving forward in a way that is aligned with that. The chariot energy is all about conviction. Um, I shout out channels on here. So Benabel Wynn, I have her. The Spirit Keepers Tarot is created by Benabel Wynn. She's on here on YouTube. She just uploaded a video about relationships and witchcraft. I don't necessarily practice a craft, but I am a spiritual person, right? And so, like stuff like that, it's I don't know if it's necessarily important to me. Honestly, luckily, I don't think I have to worry about it. So funny how that worked out. When you meet someone and you evolve spiritually in similar ways, then it's like stuff that you don't have to worry about. It's kind of nice. It's actually really nice. But anyway, she had a thing. I can't remember if it was on her website or if it was a video, but basically you pick one card. It might have been a major, and you really get into it. And the card that I picked was the Chariot. And so for me, I kind of want to do it with more majors because then it, like, especially if I read, it adds layers. But for me, I felt the Chariot kind of like the hang, how I kind of like how I talk about the Hangman, but it's like the Yang side of the Hangman, where I feel like both the Chariot and the Hangman have this, even though the Chariot comes before the Hermit, but they both have this hermit level of introspection, of consolidation, of a knowing of who they are. And right in the Chariot, you have typically a light horse and a dark horse, and they're typically going in different directions. But the will of the charioteer puts them on the same path, aligns their direction so it can move forward, right? And that's all about reconciling and bringing into balance the light and the dark aspects of yourself, the ego and the higher mind, the lower heart and the higher heart, right? Because the lower heart can get taken advantage of. The higher heart will put space in between people and we'll call it a healthy boundary. And it'll be like, it's not that I necessarily feel any type of bad way about you. It's just that I can't and myself continue to allow this to be something in my experience. And I also understand that me being in your experience doesn't help you either. And so it's with a higher heart, I'm going to have to step away from the situation. Like, I still love you, I still have love for you, and I still wish you the best. But we're going to have to do it from a distance because when we come together, it doesn't work for either one of us. Lower heart would turn to vilifying. Is that the word I want? Hey Siri, define vilified. Yeah. It's like it's not something or someone that you have to then vilify to justify cutting off that connection or distancing yourself. Like, you can distance yourself and not have to look at somebody, or you don't have to make someone a villain in order to put that distance between it to justify it within yourself, right? Anyway, so the chariot is all about reconciling the two forces and moving forward. And so the chariot actually has a lot of conviction, and the charioteer knows himself. It's like this Queen of Wands type of energy. Because the Queen of Wands is typical, and a lot of times the Queen of Wands could be depicted as a black cat, right? Sitting somewhere near her throne. And the Queen of Wands is the queen who's integrated her shadow in the way that when she expresses herself, she also knows what her shadow is. And so you're not going to use the Queen of Wands shadow to try to like demean her or to try to shake her confidence or whatever. It's like she's like, yeah, the black cat is like literally right here. Like, I know the cat is here. You don't have to tell me that the cat is here. Everybody sees the cat. What is your point? I don't entertain fools. And then she snaps, and then the guards come and you get removed from the court, right? It's like, I don't entertain fools. Everyone sees the cat. It's not necessarily that extreme, but it's along the same line of the consolidation of these two forces to then move forward. And it's like, once you know better, you're expected to do better. So maybe this is also like, maybe you got to clean up your environment. Maybe you have to clean up your social circles a little bit. And if you don't clean them up, it's at least like know what you can give to who and how much sort of credence and how much weight you give a certain person's opinion or a certain person's input, right? Especially if it's the type of person who always looks at the worst case scenario and who doesn't have anything positive to contribute. It's like, okay, thanks for giving me your opinion. You get a score of a 1 out of 100, one being like I multiply your opinion by one, and then that's the weight I give it. Well, if someone else has an opinion rate of like 53, that 53 is going to hold a lot more weight than the one, right? But you still listen to it. You just assign it a weight that is comparable to the value that it has to improving your situation or for getting you to move in the direction you want to go. The chariot is all about moving in the direction you want to go. Both of these, the five of realms and the five of souls, is all about moving you in the direction that you actually want to go. But you're sitting at a precipice, you're sitting at the cusp, and it's going to be easy to fall either way, right? And it brings to mind it's a movie, it's a TV show. I don't know remember what it is, but there's a submarine that's stuck on this rock in the bottom of the ocean, right? And they're like teeter tottering, and they're like, okay, everybody move to the front, because then if everyone moves to the front, it's front heavy, and so gravity picks it up and it pushes you down, right? It's just like the train, but the train at the top of the hill with the kinetic engine. All right, like we're stalled at the top, but if we move everything to the front, if we can shift the weight, maybe it's balanced right now. Maybe it's back heavy, maybe it's balanced. Either way, you want to shift it so it's front heavy. Because if you shift it to front heavy, you're gonna weigh enough up front, gravity's gonna pick it up, and then gravity's really gonna kick in, and that kinetic engine is gonna kick in once you're going down the hill in the direction that you want. That's chariot energy, but the chariot is also about conviction. The chariot moves with conviction. The charioteer knows who he is. And because his knowing of who he is so strong, it puts his ego and his light in balance. And it gets them working on the same page, and then he can really make progress forward. Um, this fire energy, again, I feel like that's just the spark in the engine. Um, and maybe it could also be, I mean, the throat is here, right? So I'm going to say it's time for you to stop speaking against what it is that you want, because fire is all about expression, and we express in many ways. One of those ways is with the words that we speak. And so, you know, let's clean that up. Let's clean it up. And then we have the 8 over here, which is Scorpio, and this is all about deep transformation. And I feel like I don't necessarily have to speak on Scorpio because that's what all of this has been about. Um, this is about carrying you forward, maybe getting you to graduate from a Knight of Souls to a scholar or a sage. No, getting you to graduate from a scholar to maybe a teacher or a sage. I think I call them teachers. I feel like I want a word that means teacher, but it sounds better than teacher. Yeah, I'll call them teachers and sages. So initiates, scholars, and then teachers and sages are on the same level. But the difference between a teacher and a sage, I don't have to go through it. I'll go through it if a teacher or a sage comes out. I'm going to move forward. I have 3 bags down. What time am I at? I'm at an hour and whatever. I was kind of sort of just going to do 3 bags. Actually, I think I will. Um, maybe I'll do the last 3 bags at a different time because this assignment is almost done. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll be like, oh, I'm almost done. So I'll have fun all day, and then at the end of the day I'll finish it up, and then at the end of the day I'm tired, and then it's the next day. That's a pitfall that I usually fall into. So I'm wisening up, I'm smartening up, I take my own advice, I listen, right? I actually listen to the things that I share, right? If you know me personally, you may know that. If you don't know me personally, you may pick up on that by the stuff that I share. Or maybe I'm just sharing to make it sound good and I don't actually do anything. Um, I kind of want to separate these so I don't pull the same bags. I know how I'm going to do it. So I think I'm actually going to pull a Wisdom of Lord Ganesha card. Actually, no. So I'm going to put these back over here. I'm not going to tie these twice, but I'll tie the other ones twice to know that I've already used them. And then we'll come back over here. And then I'm going to actually I Ching around each of these. Right. So by I Ching, I mean I'm going to pull two cards from the SKT, interpret them, and then read the I Ching around them for each of these. Even though it kind of sort of told a cohesive story, these could be different phases, right? I don't know what's coming or what's happening, but it's like it's this feeling I've had for a while. And every time I'm getting better at not going, not getting extremely impatient. Because every time I feel it coming close, I get really impatient, and then I'm just like I try to explode and do. It's like I haven't even done the stuff that I need to do to officially close this chapter, which I'm working on right now. But it's like I'm ready to just like turn the page, even though it isn't written yet. And then I mean, you can't do that. So I'm getting better at channeling all of that excitement and using it as motivation rather than it going into impatience, and then that impatience turning into who knows what. Oof. So yeah. But let's do this. This could be, again, it could be multiple sort of places along the same journey. Many spots of realization, maybe not. Maybe this ain't for nobody. I mean, like, some of these videos I plan on having up for a while. So I don't know if someone's going to find this in 5 years because I don't know. Maybe 5 years from now, I'll be somewhere and I was like, yeah, 5 years ago when everything was going down, I was actually, uploading videos on my channel. And that was a point in time when I uploaded the most frequently for whatever reason. And then I'm like, wow, really? Well, let me go back and check something out, and then maybe, I don't know, somebody will see this and it'll resonate for where they are in that situation. That's why I never get too hung up. I mean, sometimes I'm like, I don't know why this is coming, but I never get too hung up on uh, telling a story that I don't resonate with or that I don't think people resonate with, because it's been proven to me several times that I mean, you don't know what goes on in the internal lives of people. And so, I mean, I don't know what goes on in the internal lives of people. So if I feel led to say it, then I just say it. Okay. I'm going to do top and bottom for Saturn. Well, not for Saturn, for the blue set. The blue set again was, what number was this? 75. 75 was the Scholar of Souls. So for the Scholar of Souls, that's giving me seeker energy. That's the seeker. The initiate, the seeker, and the keeper. The initiate is the initiate, the seeker is the scholar, and then the sages and the teachers are the keepers. There we go. So the card that just came out is the burdened one. And then I'm actually going to pull the top and bottom and I Ching around the top and bottom for this. So the top is the Ivory Shield, Queen of Cups. Let's see. I might have to, there, you can kind of see. Maybe y'all can see. Maybe it's just my eyes. Bottom of the deck is the Vagabond, Five of Pentacles. There's that Five of Pentacles. So this is in the space. Left under that is Sacred Cinnabar, the Ace of Swords. Once you know better, you got to do better. Someone is learning better. Even if you're still learning, once you know better, you got to do better, right? If you go to the fourth grade or whatever grade, I've talked about negative numbers before. And if you're doing a test and you have a bunch of like bigger numbers minus smaller numbers, but then you have one smaller number minus bigger number, you can't write on that test, oh, you can't do this. It's like you're not in kindergarten, first grade anymore. Like, you know what a negative number is, or you should know. You've been exposed. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna say you should know. You've been exposed to negative numbers and you're being tested on the things that you've been exposed to see if you've learned from them. That's the test, to see if you've learned from your exposure. Like, right? That's why you get graded, right? It's not just like, oh yeah, they know this because we taught them. Move them on to the next grade. It's like, no, we've exposed them to the information. Now we test to see if they've incorporated it, integrated it, learned it. Like, you can't write, oh, can't do this, can't take away a bigger number from a smaller number. It's like, no, that's -2. Wrong. You get the X wrong. It's not like, well, at one point you were right. If we put you, okay, so if this is the answer you're giving us, let's put you back in kindergarten. You can start all over, right? And then, like, if you want to argue that you're wrong with the teacher, right? It's like, okay, The teacher's like, okay, you have a valid point. At one point, we did tell you that you can't take away a bigger number from a smaller number. So we will send you back to the first grade where that was last true. And you can do the first grade again, and you can continuously do the first grade if you never want to learn that you can take away a bigger number from a smaller number. If you never want to learn about negative numbers, we can keep you in that grade. And it's like, choose your battle, right? Do you want to accept that you're wrong in this situation, or do you want to go back to the first grade and be stuck there? I don't know. I don't know. That's the Ten of Wands. Like the Ten of Wands came out, so I'm not just rambling. Ten of Wands came out for the Scholar of Souls, and again, that was what? What was it? The sacral and the crown. The sacral and the crown, right? And like I said, can't remember if I communicated it efficiently, but it was like receiving information that doesn't necessarily align with the path that you're going. But now that it's like it should be that now that you are where you are, you can tell whenever you get an idea or a thought that will take you off of the path that you're heading in, right? And it's to get you to then strengthen your discernment and to strengthen your intuition and to get you to honestly be able to evaluate the difference between things that you should do and things that you shouldn't do. Because even if it comes to you, like there are lots of spirits out there. Not all spirits are good. And there are some bad spirits who will come under the guise of a good spirit. But then it's like, once they start talking to you, you should be able to be like, hold up, something about this don't quite resonate with where I'm coming from or where I'm going. So gonna move you over to the side. Nice try. Oh, that's so funny. The Queen of Cups is here. And I watched Water Baby Tarot's. I watch her sometimes. And I don't want to say that like I don't like her. It's just that like she's not one of the people that I watch extremely frequently. I don't necessarily watch too many people extremely frequently right now. Like there are people who I love watching who are more on the like who talk maybe a little bit more about like journeys and a little less about love, and she talks more about journeys. Um, but ultimately, like if it confirms what I'm already going through, it does. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. Right? If it doesn't resonate for me, but I think maybe it was an Aries reading that she did. The one where she said the king has returned, and I clicked on it because I've been seeing the King of Swords a lot, right? And I was like, oh, maybe this will have something to do, and I'll find out about this King of Swords that I keep seeing. But the Queen of Cups came out with the Seven of Pentacles in reverse, and she was like, this Queen of Cups is nice try, nice try. And then I just said nice try, and I was like, oh, the Queen of Cups is here. But anyway, so with the Queen of Cups and the Vagabond, I feel like this speaks to the Five of Realms, Five of Souls predicament that this Scholar of Souls is in. Because it's like emotionally, spiritually, something has changed, I'll say. But physically, it hasn't yet changed. It's like this is the space of like you've already changed with this Queen of Cups, but your situation hasn't changed with that Vagabond Five of Orbs. And so you're still on the outside, it would appear that you're still in this situation. And if you buy into the appearances yourself, that's going to get you to move backward, and then that's going to get you to tumble back down the hill, right? But if you can stick to what it is that you know, then that's going to make it easier for you to progress forward. And this queen, she is a shield, right? And so I feel like the burden one is speaking to, I mean, a lot of this speaks to this burden one, but this burden one is you reconciling those two, right? Because again, this is the scholar. So you have some information, but maybe you're not completely convinced, or maybe you're still like, well, why do I feel this, but it's still not happening? It's still not happening, right? Maybe giving into a little bit of impatience. Um, but it's for you to stand strong in the foundation and the emotional, spiritual foundation that you built for yourself, and to not allow your physical situation to hold so much weight, right? Because they say, and it is true, that once you emotionally, mentally, spiritually evolve, your environment begins to change to reflect that. But at the same time, it's all within divine timing, and it all comes in the time that it's supposed to come, and it all happens in the way and the manner in which it's supposed to happen, right? And on the when I accidentally uploaded "Should You Stay or Should You Go" on my Legacy channel, I talked about the Valley of Judgment, And the Valley of Judgment was the space between those two mirrors, right? And it's like these things are transiting through the Valley of Judgment, and it's for you to keep the faith while they're transiting that valley, so that they can then, like I did say it's a mirror, but the mirror is a door, right? So that the mirror then opens to allow whatever it is that you're manifesting to come through. And like I said, wherever, since we're talking about momentum and we're talking about going down the hill, it's like, and I've said this, it's like people will be like, well, I'm doing this affirmations and like nothing's happening, nothing is changing. And it's like you have to realize and understand that like the things that you put your energy towards have more momentum. The bigger it is, the momentum it has, especially if it's moving at the same speed as something smaller, right? That's like if a little kid is running and bumps into you, it is whatever. It is what it is. The little kid may fall down if you're sturdy enough. But if a car is moving at the speed that, that little kid was moving when it bumps into you, like the car isn't going to fall down. You might fall down, but the car's not going to fall down, right? But that's the thing about momentum. Like the bigger it is, the more weight it has. And so maybe there are things that you've put so much weight into. Now they're like you've already put these in the pipeline to come down, so they're coming down the pipeline, and then now it's like you're shifting gears. But the weight that you're giving this, because you're not, it's a muscle, you flex it, it grows, you begin to trust more and more and more as things happen. So you're not going to immediately start your affirmations and then believe them with the same weight that you believe that, oh, life is terrible, why do all these bad things happen to me, things that have been backed by years and years and years of experience. It's like it's not going to completely shift, and it's for you to recognize and realize that it's not that like those things aren't coming and those things aren't happening, but they're in this valley of judgment, they're in this space before they come into being, right? It's like, because energetically the third dimension is really dense, right? And so if you're coming asking for these things, it's like raindrops, it's like precipitation, right? It's like once the clouds get so heavy, then it rains down. And then if we're talking about like some type of snow, right, if it's high enough in the atmosphere and if it's cold enough, as it falls it freezes, right? And then if you're talking about hail, if you get a lot of it, it like freezes together and it expands as it's freezing. And if it's cold enough, it's going to start freezing the water in the atmosphere, like the vapors, I guess. Now, that part may be a little bit more conjecture than actual science. But if it's cold enough, it's going to start condensing the water in the atmosphere, and then it's going to freeze that condensed water and it's going to expand and it falls as this block of ice, right? But that's how it falls down here. Like we don't see water vapor falling from the sky because it's a gas. We can't see that. It needs to get at least as dense as a liquid, right? And then we can see the liquid. And then if it's a solid, we really see it, and that's when it really makes impact. Now, a lot of liquid can make an impact, but a little bit of solid ice can make an impact too. And it's very much that energy. I went on and on and on and on, but I'm going to read the I Ching around. So the top trigram will be the vagabond, the bottom trigram will be the ivory shield. And then the I Ching is just going to hopefully add an extra layer. I'm hoping that all of this confirms the message, right? This is the first set of messages. Maybe I'll go back and timestamp this. I didn't know what I was doing. If I knew what I was doing, I would have timestamped it as I was moving along. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. We'll see. I might, depending on how much time I have. I still want to make thumbnails for the Aquarius and Pisces video stuff. So I'm feeling like being creative today, especially after I finish this work. Ooh, I got a bottle of wine. I got some saltines and some pepper jack cheese. Maybe I'll put on a show. Maybe I'll put on Bob's Burgers. I haven't watched Bob's Burgers in a minute. Maybe I'll get my wine and cheese, and then I'll work on these thumbnails after I finish this assignment, of course. Uh, where am I going? Going to the YouTube. Okay. I'm going to the YouTube. I love this deck and this book of maps so much. This is honestly my favorite. So the Queen of Chalices is wind, and the Five of Orbs is earth. So earth over the wind. That's not natural. Here, it's not natural. It could be natural somewhere. I ain't been to every planet. maybe somewhere, the earth floats on top of the wind and the core is, maybe there's like a gassy planet or a planet that has a gassy core, but when you go further out, then it's like the cold void of space freezes it, but at its core it's still gas. I don't know. I don't know nothing. Let me stop. So this is Earth over Wind. Earth over Wind is number 46. Push upward. Push upward. I love when it lines up and when it validates what I was already saying, because it makes me feel like I'm not just talking for no reason. Let's see. Push upward. 46. So even if you've already begun to slide down that mountain, and this is something I struggled with depression for like all my life. I've been depression free for like a year and a half now. It's amazing what a spiritual awakening can do for someone. But also, I know and I realize that like a lot of the depression that I had stemmed from a lot of the issues that I was avoiding. And I always knew that most of it stemmed from those things that I was avoiding. But the things that I was avoiding, those things were too scary for me to face them. So that's why when I had my dark night, November 2018, I was like, everything has to change. Everything, like from the ground up, it all has to change because my foundation is right from the bottom, because I knew I was operating from that rotten foundation. I made conscious decisions. And because I made those conscious decisions, I consciously was aware. Some people make unconscious decisions from hurt and pain, right? I consciously made those decisions from the hurt and pain I was going through. And I chose to minimize the hurt and pain that I would feel by making those decisions. So maybe that's why I always knew what was up, right? And so I knew it was time to face those. And so as I began to face those, all of a sudden I'm not like depressed all the time anymore. I remember it was like February and somebody asked me how I was. And I was like, well, I don't have a job. I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent. I'm like hungry because I have no money, but I'm not depressed. Like, I've been in better places in my life and I've been depressed. I'm like, strangely not depressed right now. And like, it's not that I haven't had like a hard day or a hard night, but usually a hard day or a hard night would turn into me like waking up depressed the next day. And then it's like, boom, I'm depressed for like 2 weeks and I've skipped class and I've done all this, right? But it's like now I give, like, if I'm having a hard day or a hard time, I give myself time to feel it. And it's like I give myself time to feel those emotions. I still look at it and I analyze it and I give myself time to feel it, but then it's like I bounce right back to the surface because it doesn't turn into these things that I then shove to the back of my mind and I don't address, because it's like, if there's this room that's filthy and overflowing, let's call it a cartoon, it's bursting at the seams, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I have to gotta open that door. A sea of dirty clothes and a bunch of old crap may come flooding out. But maybe if I just open the door real quick and throw it in, and then like put my back on the door and just like push it, it'll like keep itself contained, right? It's like that feeling every time you go back to open it up. But I've gone through the room, I've cleaned it up. So if I need to put something back there, if you metaphorically have it organized now, it's like, okay, I'll set this here. If I can't deal with it right now, I'll set it here. I'll keep working on what I need to work on. And then when I can come back and address this, I'll do it in a space where I'm more centered and calm and balanced and where I can do it, right? But anyway, while I was going through it after I was diagnosed and I tried medication and stuff like that, I think it actually kind of sort of worked. Um, But then, I mean, I stopped taking it because I'm bad at taking things regularly. I did really, really good with taking it regularly, but then I missed one day, and after I missed, like, I think it wasn't twice a day. I think it was only once a day. After I missed one day, it's like I missed every day. Like I hadn't been doing it for months. Um, but I went to a depression group, and we would talk about how it's like sometimes it's like you have one off day or maybe two off days, but then it turns into this thing where it's like you stay in it, and then an off day, two off days turns into an off week, turns into a few off weeks. And I was like, personally for me, it was like I would feel bad about skipping class. I would feel bad about the money I was wasting. I would feel bad about all kinds of stuff when it came to class. And then me feeling bad would keep me from going to class. But then it's like I would feel bad enough that eventually I would go back to class, maybe like 2 to 3 weeks later, right? And then the professor's like, "Where you been?" I was like, but anyway, she was like, it's possible. I forget how she said it, but she was like, sometimes we slip, sometimes we stumble, sometimes we fall, and that's okay. You give yourself time to process through whatever you're processing through and to experience it, but like you don't always have to slide into that weeks long depression, right? You can go through a hard day, you can have a day, maybe 2 days where you slip, but you don't always have to slide. And that was so profound to me. At first, of course, I didn't fully understand it. And she was like, I hope that makes sense. And I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, because I feel like if your narrative is that once you stumble, you slide all the way back, then you're going to continue to slide all the way back. But once someone introduces something that disrupts that pattern of thinking, when someone gives you a different route to take, then it's like I don't have to continuously fall into these cycles that I've always told myself I'll fall into. Because once you slip, it becomes this negative self fulfilling, like, sort of scenario. But once given that opportunity, and once it's acknowledged, like, slips happen, but they don't always have to turn into slides. Then I started slipping more than I started sliding. And now it's like I'm gliding on the ice. Can't ice skate, right? I can't, but it's not like I'm slipping and sliding my butt across the rink, but now I can like glide, right? Anyway, um, so even if you've begun to slip down that mountain, down that hill, you can catch yourself. You don't have to slide all the way back, right? You can catch yourself, and then I'm going to read the push forward. You can push yourself back up and then over the hump. You ain't got to slide all the way. Okay, so number 46, push upward and hoist. At first, I thought that said heist. I was like, what? Wanda? Diamond Heist. I should watch that movie. This is Shung, and it says, a seed deep within the earth begins its push upward as it grows into a tree. Give the seed time to push through the resistance of the earth. In time, the seed will flourish. The sage adheres to virtuous practice and grows upward like the tree. Small victories accumulate to become greatness. One victory hoists up another until you attain supreme success. The winds of change are blowing in your favor, and the resources of the earth avail themselves to you. I kind of sort of love that. I kind of sort of really love that. And yeah, I feel like that validates everything I just said, so I don't necessarily have to get any deeper into it. I'm gonna give this two shuffles, and then we're gonna see what the Saturn energy is about. Honestly, I could just pull the World card because this is such heavy Saturn energy. I'm gonna do that. Excuse me. I'm gonna pull the cards. I'm gonna give this a few shuffles. I'm gonna pull the cards around the world, and then I'm gonna I Ching those. And this is like the Five of Realms, right? It's creating a new world or an old one. Watch it be like the Two of Swords and the Six of Swords or something. Okay, well, the Emperor just came out. The Emperor, the Archangel of Healing, Apocalypse, and the Initiate. Oh, wow. This is three majors in the King of Cups. And the Queen of Cups is already on the table. The Ivory Shield is already on the table. And here is the Archangel of Healing, the King of Cups. The Emperor, Archangel of Healing, the Initiate, and what was that? Apocalypse, which is Judgment. That's interesting. This is a 24. If you don't, because like the Fool and the other card don't have anything. And yeah, the Fool is Earth. Hey. And Judgment is Fire. Hey. Earth and Fire. I'm going to put these back in the deck, but I'm going to say the Archangel of Healing, King of Cups. Kings are expressive. I feel like this speaks to actions that you begin to take, actions that you can take. When you act out of that healing, it solidifies and cements that healing. Just like when you act out of hurt and pain, and it solidifies that pain. Like you acting out of hurt and pain amplifies the hurt and pain. You acting out of love and healing and light amplifies that love and healing and light. And so I feel like with this emperor being backed, or with that archangel of healing being backed by the initiate in the apocalypse, it's like it's time to shake up your story. It's time to change the dynamic. You have air and fire. Air and fire are very harmonious. They work together, right? I mean, that's masculine energy, and then you see the emperor right here. Feminine energy is earth and water. But you have air and fire. Air and fire is all about the thoughts. Air and fire both, wands and swords can both signify action, right? But not only do you have the thought, but you also have the fire behind it to express it. Like once you act in that healing, it amplifies that healing, and then it comes to lead you to a space of greater, greater self-control, greater sovereignty, greater self-authorship. I'm loving self-authorship now because it's all about disrupting the narratives that we've told ourselves and that we've bought into of other people telling us, right? It's like fan fiction, right? Everyone has fan fiction of what your character is, and you're reading everyone else's fan fiction about who you are instead of like actually being the author of your story. It's like, what, how y'all get the fan fiction before the author even wrote the book? Like, do y'all got access to something that I don't have access to? How y'all already telling me who I am before I've even like determined who that is, right? Anyway, that all came out. So if you're sitting at the brink, compassionate acts, sowing compassionate seeds will lead you to reaping compassionate fruit. And then that will keep you going in the direction you want. Okay. So I'm going to look for Around the World card. The High Priestess is the first card out, followed by the Eight of Wands, followed by this Messenger. And the message that she's bringing is this Three of Swords. All of that Three of Swords, heartache and heartbreak happened for a reason, but use that to push and propel you forward. Once you heal and grow from that, the lessons that you learn from that are immense. Like the High Priestess is here. It all happens for a reason. Maybe you're beginning to see the reasoning in why it's all happening. And maybe you can look for more reasons why other heartbreak and heartache will happen, right? Or what happened to you. Look at the strength that has led you to claiming. And I know sometimes it's not difficult, especially if the situation is extremely or more traumatic than others. I know it's not easy, but like healing isn't necessarily easy work, right? So I'm looking for the world card. We're going to see what comes before and after the world, and that's what I'm going to pull. Oh, that was I was like, what is that? That was that Dexter meme. Oh wow. Okay, I do want to note this. The Archangel of Healing is now sitting in between the Empress and the Four of Cups, the Hollow Void. The Hollow Void. Four of Cups. And the Empress. Maybe you found more productive ways to fill that void, or maybe it's like that's a you thing. It's your journey. You can't tell everybody. You can't tell everybody everything. Because sometimes the experience is the most important part. And here's the world card. So the world is sitting between. This is so interesting. Because here's the Emperor again right here. Did that? Here's the Emperor again right here, right? And then we have the Shining Quarry, Knight of Pentacles, the World, which is Saturn. I don't know if you can see it, but this is why I look for the World. You see the glyph for Saturn up there? Yeah. Hey, I did it right. Well, right-ish. I did it right-ish. And then we have this Dark Horse, Seven of Wands. So sitting between the Dark Horse and the Seven of Pentacles. This is a very, very, very defiant energy. And I love that. I love that because that's somebody saying, like, I don't care how long it takes me. I don't care how slow it looks like. And then the Three of Cups is sitting right behind it. I don't care how long it takes me. I don't care how slow it looks like I'm moving. I'm going to keep moving because any progress is movement forward. And it's better to be making even a small bit of movement forward than no movement forward. And even if I wasn't moving at all, that's certainly much better than moving backwards. Because even if it looks like I'm still at some points, even if I'm taking a little break because I'm climbing up this mountain and I need to catch my breath, right? If you're climbing up a mountain, there are changes in the oxygen concentration, and you need to give your body time to adjust, right? Or you get elevation sickness, right? You need to give your body time to adjust to the thinning oxygen. And one of the things that may be interesting, but it just is what it is. If you climb up a mountain high enough, the temperature drops. Even though you're getting closer to the sun, it gets colder, right? And you're like, well, what's that about? You'd think that if you're getting closer to the sun, that it would get hotter or warmer, but no, the temperature drops. And at the same time the temperature is dropping, the oxygen gets thinner. It's more demanding. Like I said, it's not easy. But with this dark horse, it's all about having the determination to claim victory anyway when everyone else counts you out. When no one else sees the greatness in you, it's about you seeing the greatness in you, and it's about you making constant and steady progress towards that, no matter how small. And sometimes it's more effective to move around the mountain to where it's less steep to more easily move up the mountain, right? Like if you hit a spot where it's like straight up, and if you ain't a Capricorn goat where you can just climb up the face of a mountain, then you have to navigate around to find a place where it's less steep so you can actually go forward. And so sometimes a detour or a circumnavigation isn't you falling back. But if you're not strong enough in who you are, you may allow other people to convince you that you've stopped when in reality you haven't stopped, right? Where's the hangman? I'm not going to go on a whole rant about the hangman, but I didn't see him, I don't think. Actually, yeah, I don't think I saw him, so I'll go from the top because I don't think I saw him when I was looking for. Oh, there he is right there, literally at the top of the deck. I'm glad I went from the top. Sometimes you just got to listen to your intuition. Because there's what? Five cards, and he's this card right here. So before the hangman is the Destroyer, Ten of Swords, and the Scarlet Shield, Queen of Swords. The Destroyer and the Queen of Swords. I feel like this is like if there's anything that you've mentally put to bed, this is about letting it stay dead. I feel like there's a lot of mental sort of turmoil and hardship that you've already gone through in the past, and this queen is here standing guard to keep you, to try to help you from, again, turning that slip into a slide. If you already feel like you've been sliding, maybe she's there to like, put her shield up before you go all the way down the mountain, put her shield up so that you hit the shield, and then she'll pick you up and give you a little bit of a nudge back up the mountain, right? But then we have this stronghold of the Zephyrs, Page of Swords, Ten of Swords, Queen of Swords, Page of Swords, all of that back in this hangman. And then we have the Knight of Cups, the Shining Dew here, right? So the hangman is sitting between the Page of Swords and the Knight of Cups. I'm actually going to see if a message will fall out for this Page of Swords. In this deck, the pages are exclusive. Well, this deck can be used like any other deck. And she says it's for everybody, but there's also intentions that she put into it when she created it. And the intentions behind the deck, the intentions behind the strongholds, the pages in this deck is purely messengers, right? They're not necessarily immature energies. They bring a message. And so you can pick another card to see what that message is. So we're going to see what the Page of Swords has to say. Okay, you ain't fall all the way out, but I'll take you because you did make a scene. Bottom of the deck now is the Archangel of Mysteries. You may not know why it's happening, and it's not your job to know why it's happening. It's just your job to keep moving forward, like the Robinsons say. Archangel of Glory, King of Wands, and then the King of Pentacles right here. King of Volcanoes. Archangel of Glory, Angel of Art and Grace, right? And that's the message that this Page of Swords is saying. I feel like this is like I said, how like that Ten of Swords is behind us and the Queen of Swords is getting us, trying to get us trying to prevent us from trying to prevent us from sliding further back into all of the old chapters that we've already closed, from re-experiencing all of the old hurt and pain that we've already in some ways healed from, right? Because was it yesterday or the day before when I was like, you're like, if you get punctured by something and then you remove it, it's like, first of all, you shouldn't have removed it. But if you did remove it, what you don't want to do is try to repuncture it again because you're puncturing it twice. Um, right. And so it's trying to get you from going as far into those old wounds as you may be feeling this tendency to go to. But we have this Knight of Cups here, which is all about moving forward. And then we have this Archangel of Glory, the Angel of Art and Grace, which speaks to the majesty. This is the only unicorn in the whole deck. It speaks to the majesty of that horse. It speaks to the magic of what you operating in your spiritual connection can be. And that's why I pulled this Hangman, because the Hangman is that energy of internal spiritual alignment that then morphs and shifts and changes the world around you to get you to move forward, right? The Hangman is like the Planet Express ship from Futurama, right? The ship doesn't actually move at all. The ship moves the universe and the world around it. So the ship is stationary, but for some way, somehow, the ship has the ability to move everything else around it, right? And so the ship doesn't have to move. The Hangman doesn't have to move. The Hangman shifts and morphs the world around it, right? So if you're looking at the Hangman and you never see him move, it's because he's not supposed to move. But if you observe him a little bit further back, when you can see the world moving around him, it would appear as if he is moving, even though he is still. It's this forward movement that comes from a stillness in self. That's why I love the Hangman. A lot of people, and again, in his shadow, he can be stuck because there's light and shadow to everything. You know, the movement of the Hangman is a mystery that not many people understand. But hangmen can become kings and queens of pentacles. So don't let a little bit of stuck fool you. Okay, but now we're gonna move forward, right? And we're gonna do this teaching. We're gonna do this. So upper trigram is the Knight of Orbs. Lower trigram is the Seven of Scepters. Seven of Scepters is fire. Knight of Orbs is Earth. So Earth over fire. Earth over wind. Earth over fire. Earth over everything, I guess. Here's Earth. There's fire. Earth over fire is Darken the Light. Number 36. That's interesting. Darken the Light. What's this about? And darken the light, not dark in the light. Because I'm looking at this and I was like, that's pretty dark. Maybe darken the light though, because like I was talking about the precipitation and how like we want things up here, and to get them to come in, we gotta keep giving them weight, giving them weight, giving them weight until they fall down in a way that we can observe, in a way that they can impact things. And so maybe it's about making that stuff heavier so it can precipitate, but I'll read it and see. Read it and see. Darken the light. This is Ming E. And it says, give me one moment, y'all. I'm gonna have to flip this way so I can read ya. Okay. It says, the sun has descended down into the belly of the earth. It is a time of transitions. One will come to an end while another is ascending. Use the darkness to your advantage. Wait until the darkness has set in completely before you start the uprising. Use darkness to veil your light. Begin the resistance of light under the veil of darkness. Do not compel the change. Let the time of transition take place in due course. Do not draw attention to your light, but do not let that inner light extinguish. A push for change is in the air, but the time for change has not yet come. I don't like that. The message I'm gonna say is, if you stuck on that mountain, if you at the tippy top, You may have to hold you may have to hold there for a sec. Actually, it's not that I don't like it, but I mean I mean the Knight of Pentacles, slowest knight in the deck. I'm not happy that, this I Ching is telling me to wait or us to wait. I'm like, go on down that mountain, start careening, like you'll pick up. This is just saying that you may have to hold your peace for a little bit longer still. Maybe you are still in this process of healing. Maybe there's a little bit more healing that you need to do before you fully come into this space. Maybe there is something, again, sometimes I feel the Knight of Pentacles as the energy of acquiring resources before you pursue a task. And it's like you want to make sure you have your ducks in a row before this happens. So if there is something that you need to heal, if there's a resource that you need to pick up, if there's a relationship that you need to reconcile, a relationship worth reconciling that you need to reconcile, if there is a connection that you need to reestablish, if there's a connection that you need to use to finally utilize to get to where you're going, it's like begin to do that. All of that is part of the time of preparation, right? So this is speaking to a time of preparation. Change is already in the air. The wheel of fortune is already turning. You want to make sure that you're prepared and ready when that change comes for you, right? Operate in the darkness. And the darkness, again, is like it's this space. If I go back to the whole metaphor of the forest where the fog rolls in, the people who exit the forest before the fog lifts will have the ability to navigate through the darkness and to navigate through the unknown while everyone else is sort of, scrambling around. And then it lifts and everyone's like, oh, yay, we did it, right? But there are going to be the people who exit the forest in that time of darkness who's going to come out with a certain skill set that then puts them in a position to move that even further. I don't know what it is, but it's very much so that case, right? Just like when, like, the smoke that has fallen down to disrupt the projected image in this false light, it's like it's going to be dark. Maybe no light can go through, right? But since no light can go through, that fake image can't either. And now it's almost like, we have these lights that come online in this fog and the smoke, and the radiation of their inner light then creates, it's like their light radiates outward and the aura becomes this, it's like a bubble of clarity when everything around it is foggy. And you need to cultivate, like it said, like don't let your inner light extinguish, but it may not necessarily be time to shine right now, because right now it's time to cultivate that and to feed it so that it can grow. And as it grows and expands, it brings clarity with it in a space where there isn't much clarity. And it may be the case then that once you get enough of the people, and it may be the people who initially started lighting those smoke fires to get everything to sort of shut down so we can reevaluate. It may be people who didn't even know whatever, but in this moment of darkness, they find their light. So it may be the initial people, it may be people who came later, it may be people that you didn't even expect. But again, like you don't know what healing someone else has to do. And so, like, our journeys are different. So you can't evaluate someone else's progress on their journey by what you see on the outside, and then you say like, oh, I was there, or I've done this, or oh, I've done this and I've done that, because like there's still more work for you to do. This could be the last thing that they needed to really take off, but you wouldn't know that because you don't know the journey. It's like all of the other skills that they were out there acquiring, they already got. All they need is a little bit of a spark to give themselves permission to connect with their deeper truths and then to apply their skills in a way that actually brings something forward. But you, on the other hand, maybe like, well, they were acquiring the skills to move things forward afterward. You were, working on your fire, sending up the smoke to get us to reach this space, and now you still need to then work to see how you'll proceed after this space, because the beginning of what you were doing was to get us to this space, right? But all they needed was a little bit of darkness to find their inner light, and now boom, they're ready to move, right? That's why it's important for us to be more centered and grounded in our own journeys. And even when you're watching somebody else, it's not to feel that maybe you're behind them, because you never know. You never know where you're going to go. And it could just happen to be that you've already acquired most of everything you're going to need moving forward. All you needed was your alarm to go off for you to wake up, right? But anyway, it's about cultivating the inner light and holding that space, right? So I guess she's saying stay at the top of that mountain, right? And like I said, I think I said it before, I'm pretty sure I said it before I read it. Like, no movement is better than going backwards. And no movement may give you enough time for emergency backup reserve power to come online, and then you can like take off again, right? I don't know. So with this last one, I guess I could look around the High Priestess because that is the card that actually came out. But I'm actually going to do this the first way. I'm going to shuffle this up, and then we'll see where it leads us. How long is this video? Ooh, 2 hours and 5 minutes. I'm doing my work first thing. I'm gonna finish up this meditation. All of the outside stuff that can wait until later. I'm finishing this work first and foremost because I'm not gonna put all this day away, and then at the end of the day, call myself trying to do this, and then I go sleep and go to bed, and then it's tomorrow when I could have had this done today. Not doing it. Okay, a whole bunch of cards just fell out, and I'm gonna acknowledge all of them. Three of Pentacles is at the bottom of the deck. First is the Three of Swords, the Bereaved, followed by the um, Stronghold of the Grail, Page of Cups. The Page of Cups is bringing us a message of. I don't want to turn it in reverse. What is that? The Chancellor, Justice. So the Page of Cups is telling us that while we may still, on some level, suffer from this heartache, there is a justice that's incoming, and the justice incoming again is you sort of releasing and relinquishing that heartache. As a person who suffered from depression for a long time, um, there were some not great thoughts that I had that I would hold on to as kind of sort of as a comfort, but also like if I needed anything to beat myself up about when I was already slipping, if I, for whatever mental reason, wanted to ensure that I would slide, I had a whole closet full of things to feel bad about, prepared and ready for the case that that happened. But I feel like this is saying like it's time to release all of that and to really release it, right? However, that's going to happen for you because as soon as you do that, okay, let's do it this way. As soon as you do that, you come into this Eight of Wands where you can really take off. And then we have this Two of Swords here again, which is Libran energy. So you have Justice and now you have this Two of Swords. I feel like, but you also have the Eye of God over there that is overseeing it all. And I feel like, that could be, once you're able to heal past this, it could give you a gift of clarity that will propel you forward. It's almost like if you can find a way to heal this and move past this, you'll be able to move past anything. Like this is how you become unstoppable, indestructible even. And then coming out next is the Six of Swords, which is all about movement. But you have to do that healing before you can make movement away from this, because if not, it's like once you get so far, you're gonna jump into the water and then you have to restart the level all over again. It's like because this boat is going upstream. The boat is carrying you upstream, and the boat is honestly doing all of the hard work. But if you decide to jump into the water, then the water is going to move you back, right? Because it's traveling upstream. The water is naturally flowing counter current. So the water is going to push you back. The boat is trying to carry you forward. It's time to shake up everything by finally really walking away and moving away from this, right? And this is coming out in this space where at first it was the Five of Realms, which is all about the physical space you're in. Now we're at the Five of Souls, which is all about experiences happening to you that maybe that are teaching you who you really are, and they're showing you how you want to be. And it just so turns out how you want to be is related to who you really are. And like for me personally, there was a moment when I felt like hurt and I felt pain. I'm not gonna lie. But then I was like, I thought about it and I thought about the way I conducted myself through all of it. And I was like, I'm actually kind of proud of how I showed up. Because there was sort of, like I said, for a long time, I've just kind of sort of been like taking on a lot of things from a lot of people. and I wasn't really giving myself a lot of attention. And so it came to the point where I needed to give myself attention, but that manifested in ways that may have been a little bit abrasive, or may have been like a little bit more extreme and me like pulling away at some points. And again, that's how like a subconscious influence can play out as any kind of conscious factor. Like the conscious factor is like me getting impatient, me pulling away from people, me doing this or doing that. But subconsciously, it's because there's a need to reconnect to self. And all of this stuff happening up top is to show me that this is what needs to happen on the inside, right? And so I went outside and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be bitter. I'm not going to buy into this narrative or that narrative. I know and I understand. I knew, especially at the end, I knew why this was happening. I know what I need to do in this moment. And all of this happening is just to get me into a space where I can allow this. And so once I made that decision, it's like I came into a truth of who I was. It's like if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't change anything. I would probably be more kind and more caring and more compassionate and more loving and more understanding and more giving. But for some reason, like when I said that, it just unlocked something within me that rang as true. Like that's who I really am. And then as a kid, of course, like I was short tempered, right? I'm not gonna say I wasn't short tempered, but I was also extremely kind and extremely charitable and extremely giving. Like honestly, in high school, there would be some days where I didn't eat lunch because I had a friend who, like, I don't know, wanted some money for something. I'm just like, oh yeah, like here, have this. I'm not too hungry. And then my mom would get upset. And she was like, I'm not giving you lunch money to feed other people. Like, I could save my money if you're not going to use it. And I was like, Mom, no, because then what will I eat? He was like, well, what are you eating now? You're giving all your money away. Um, But I used to do stuff like that without thinking about it. And then I got jaded, honestly, not gonna lie. I got jaded. I pulled away from people. I was like, I'm the type of person that people just use. And I have like poor weather friends. I don't even have fair weather friends. I'm the friend that people go to when everything else in their life is falling apart and they need someone to pick them up. And I pick them up and then like they're gone again. Right. Oh, there's that moon card with the chariot, moon and the chariot, Piscean Cancerian energy. Um, but then like it's like that also highlighted a truth to me of who I am. And so I needed to go through that experience to make that choice with the Two of Swords. But when I made that choice and that decision, it's like it brought it online for me. Like, oh, this is who I actually am. Like at my core, this is who I am. I just needed this situation to remember and to more consciously choose it in the future. I'll give this two more and then I'll pull top and bottom to see what this is about. Top is the initiate. Bottom is what's that? What's that? The Holy See, the Hierophant. And this is all about creating new paradigms, new structures, and the magician is right here, literally creating new paradigms and new structures. I'm actually going to pull this as the backing energy behind the magician is that Eight of Cups. Again, that's the reminder. It's time to walk away from all that heartache and heartbreak, and it's time to remember who you are. And you can walk away from something again without vilifying it. You can walk away from something in love and you can continue to love something in someone and not give as much to them as you did in the past. Um, but yeah, so we have the initiate and the hierophant, which is all about creating those new structures. The hierophant in this deck speaks to going beyond what is structured and organized religion and spirituality and seeking the truth for yourself of who the divine is. And when you, in some ways, when you connect to the truest part of who you are, it leads to a deeper understanding and connection of divine energy. And once you come into like who you are more fully, it's like you kind of sort of by sheer virtue of the process come to understand the divine because the Bible says a lot of texts say that we are made in the image of God, but we're not made in the physical image of God. But if it's not the physical image of God, what is the image of Him that we're created in? Right? what is it's basically the spirit, right? Like if you're made in the image of something that is non-corporeal, right? Like a ghost. The ghost doesn't have a body, but if we're the same, where's that similarity between us? It's the spark that pilots the vessel, right? Once the vessel decays, the spark is still there, right? Like a car can be bad, but the engine can still be good. The engine is still there. The engine is the soul. It's what drives us forward. That's the image that we're created in. And so once we create to the truer natures of who we are, that for a lot of people is the more compassionate and caring and kind and understanding, rooted in unconditional love, and then it sort of automatically opens the gateway to greater divine understanding and greater divine connection and stuff like that, right? But we're going beyond, and now we're going to, I mean, with the magician, we're going to be able to create from that space, which is amazing because, the image of God is also of a creator. It is of love and creation. And the creation is an expression of that love, right? In some ways, I guess. Um, and this is sitting at the five of souls, which is interesting. It's like we're halfway there to realizing the truth. Or you can fall back and be void. You can be like the dude from the Matrix who's like, plug me back in, put me back to sleep. I don't want to know. And I'm gonna eat ching this, and then I'll shut this down, and I'll rinse off my feet. I'm feeling fairly centered and balanced. Maybe that's because I also have the music running in the background, which is nice, and I still got my feet in the tub. And then I'm gonna get my day started. I may actually get something to eat. I may get like eat a pepper jack cheese stick and some saltines to just taste a little bit of preview of what I have in store later tonight. I'm so excited. It's Blackberry Merlot. I don't like wine, but Blackberry Merlot, it's Arbor Mist. It's like the generic or the cheap stuff. I love it. When I've had actual wine, I don't like it. It's like dry. And honestly, it blew my mind the first time I had a wine, like a real wine, like a legit wine. It blew my mind because I was like, I've never had a liquid that dried out my mouth. Like my mouth is drier after drinking a liquid and it's wet. How can something, I mean, I'm assuming it's wet. It's not wet. Like people say water is wet. Well, wine, dry wine will convince you that yes, water is actually wet because there are liquids that are not wet. There are liquids that will dry your mouth. I didn't understand it. I was like, it blew my mind. I was like, how can a liquid dry out my mouth? Anything is possible, folks. Anything is possible. That's a miracle right there. Jesus turned water into wine. Jesus literally invented the first liquid that will dry your mouth out. And if that's not a miracle, I don't know what is. So, shout out to the folks in France, right? Because champagnes come from France. I don't think it was a champagne, it was a wine. Shout out to the folks wherever who made that, who made me a believer of the fact that yes, indeed, water is wet, and no, it's not, redundant. It's not a redundant statement because there are some liquids that ain't wet. Anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about that. Maybe that also speaks to a deepening of the understanding sort of going on behind this, right? Maybe you're a liquid that isn't wet. And maybe people couldn't find space to appreciate you in the past. Maybe you couldn't find space to appreciate you in the past because, like, everyone's like, oh, water is wet. This liquid was wet. That liquid was wet. And you're like, well, my liquid is dry. There's a whole subsection of people, and that subsection of people is fairly large, who will appreciate a dry liquid. And just because you ain't been in the space to meet somebody who would appreciate that dry liquid does not mean that you should also not appreciate this dry liquid. Because if a dry liquid is who you are, once you come into that realization, once you fully accept that, then you'll be able to attract other people who accept that, right? And then, hey, they'll be celebrating you. They'll be inviting you to the parties because you liven up the party. You can't have a party without wine. It's like, oh, we want this. You might have Leo in your chart or Aquarius, right? You could be the star, Aquarius, or you can have Leo in your chart. You could be the sun. Uh, but it's like then you become someone that people don't like. The Aquarian energy is the socialite. It's the person who knows everybody, right? Is my leg sweating? Or is the water like traveling up my legs? That's weird. I don't think that's sweat. I'm sorry. Life of the party. People will want you there to celebrate. Maybe people will be so inspired by your story at the end of this that it's like they'll be like, hey, they'll see you at a party and they're like, oh my gosh, this dude's story is wild. Hey, come over here and tell these people how you did it. And you're like, oh, well, and then somebody will be like, you should write a book, you should do a podcast, you should be a motivational speaker. And then maybe later on in your life, you'll come to the place where, maybe things slow down a little bit. You do a lot of the things that you want to do. And you're like, maybe it is time to write a book. Maybe I could go on a tour and be a motivational speaker. Maybe I could do a podcast. Maybe it doesn't even have to be the end of your life. Maybe it could be something that you sort of do in the between time. And if you know that you are someone meant for greatness, why not start writing your autobiography right now? Especially in times like this, right? In times like this, why not start writing your autobiography right now and just have it as a working thing? And then once, you reach a certain point, you can release it or you can go back and touch it up and then release it, right? So then you don't have to sit down and try to remember everything that happened. Just start writing it right now. Why not? It could be one of the things that one of those actions that you do that push that manifestation into coming into reality. Just start writing it now. I don't know who that's for, but I feel like it's very powerful. I don't know who's actually going to begin to write their autobiography, but I mean, you ain't got to write the whole autobiography. I guess just write down sort of some of the key memories and the points in your life that has led you to this point. And even if you haven't made it over whatever hurdle you're in right now, I mean, once you've made it past this hurdle, you may be able to reflect and remember, but it's not going to be as fresh as you actively going through it. So maybe journal right now. And then you can turn those journal entries into a section of your autobiography. I don't know. Write down your experiences. Why not? Why not? I don't know. It kind of makes me excited for somebody who will see this one day. Maybe like maybe I'll get a notification in like 5 years off of this video right here, and somebody will be like, I saw this like a year after you uploaded it, and it was an extremely long video, and I'm surprised I watched a video that was over like 2:22 long, but all of your videos are long, so hey. But you said that, and I began to do it, and here's my autobiography. I'm gifting you a copy. Send me an email, and I'll send it to you for free, and I will send you an email, and I will get it, and I will read it. And if I don't read it, I'll have somebody read it to me. But that would be cool. That would be so wild. Maybe it'll be me. Maybe I'll write an autobiography and then I'll come back to this video and be like, hey, I was actually speaking to myself in the future. Who knew? Anyway, so we have the Fool on the bottom, which I believe is heaven energy. And the Magician is devil. I think the Fool is heaven. Am I right? It is. Whoop, 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 whoop. And I think the Hierophant may be Earth, but that's just because it's Taurus. The Hierophant is the mountain. So the mountain over heaven. This is interesting because the things that you would think would be on top aren't on top. And I guess that's the sort of thing, right? So the mountain over heaven. This is limitation number 26. So we had 36, which was dark in the light. Now we have 26 limitation. And then I'm gonna shut this down. I've been on here rambling and ranting for hours. For hours. This is holding back. This is imposed limitations, control, and forbearance. This is Dachu. I feel like I've read Dachu before, but maybe not. Let's see what these limits and restrictions are all about. You hold great power. I'm sorry. It reminds me on World of Warcraft, there's this dude who's supposed to be like a paladin, which means he's supposed to be in the church in some way, right? And then they're like, why are you doing this? I thought you were good. And he's like, there is no good, no evil. There is only power. And he says power in this, like, it's so funny. But he gets corrupted by the power. He was a holy man at some point, corrupted by the power. Maybe he was always about the power, and the holy structure was just some way for him to rise in some ranks and accumulate some power until he got the knowledge to get a different kind of power. And then you end up fighting him. He's like, there is no good, no evil. There is only power. You hold great power and potential, but restraints are necessary to temper that power and keep it under control. Officers of the nation should not accept offers of benefit from their nation. Decline enrichment from those you are serving. If you forbear from accepting rewards or compensation for your service to the public, then your forbearance will bring you even greater prosperity than those offered rewards. An auspicious omen for great undertakings, advantageous for you to proceed on your endeavor. Okay. I've actually been thinking about it because I know Miyoshi asked me the other day what I would charge for a personal. And I was like, I don't know, because honestly, I'm not gonna like for me personally, at least at this point, it feels like something I wouldn't charge for. Not to say that I shouldn't, not to say that I couldn't, but for where I am right now. And maybe for me that's just a little bit of a confirmation. Actually I'm gonna put these back up here so I can take a picture and have this be the thumbnail. Um I already slid them down, but and yeah, I've gotten that a few times because I was like, we're in interesting times. And so, if you are someone who serves spiritually, if you can afford to reduce prices, if you can afford to do a little bit of give back for free, if you can afford to be a light to the people who need a light but may not be able to pay their light bill right now, maybe let the people have the lights. Now, if you need it for your livelihood, then that's one thing. I'm not going to say you should have to sacrifice and go without. But every time I've gotten that, it's like, here's a gentle reminder. If you can give back a little bit, maybe give back a little bit because some people ain't working and they can't afford to pay the light bill. And just because they can't afford to pay the light bill in times like these doesn't mean that they deserve for their lights to be shut off. Um, but also, I feel like it also speaks to kind of sort of that darken the light, where like if you've been working and moving under the cover of darkness, or maybe if you've been working and making impacts in smaller ways, that your reward will be coming to you. It said, with great power also comes the need for great restraint. Because if it's like baby Hercules, right? I don't know if you've ever seen Disney Hercules, but that's the perfect metaphor. He didn't have a restraint on his power and he didn't know how to control it. And so he walked around causing disasters because he had the strength of a god, but the body of a mortal. Um, and so the whole movie was basically his journey to reclaim his godhood. He was born with a gift, he was born without restraint, but then he learned to control it and learned to channel it in a way that served the public, right? And when you're serving, because Zeus told him you need to be a hero to come back to Olympus, and so he was trying to be a hero. So all of the acts in that movie, while they were heroic, yes, they were all done for the sake of being a hero. So when you're doing something to be a hero, it's not heroic. If you're being good, so Santa Claus brings you presents, you're not being good for goodness sake. You're being good to get presents. That's why I never understood why they say that in that song. It's like you better watch out, you better not you better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout because Santa's coming to town. So, be good for goodness sake, but you're already telling the kids to be good because Santa's coming. So like it's hard to be good for goodness sake when you're telling me to be good so I can get presents from Santa because now I'm being good for presents. It's hard for someone to act in a way that is heroic when you tell them that they need to be a hero to achieve this level of power. And the level of power that he wanted to, like, he just wanted to find a place. He just wanted to go home. He wanted a place to belong because a mortal with the strength of a god does not belong in the world of the mortals. He just naturally causes disaster. He's not born to fit in, but here it's like, okay, we've learned from our Hercules mistakes. We've learned from the demigods in the past how they cause just as much trouble. So we're going to put these limiters and these restrictions and these restraints. And again, what the Three of Swords came out with, everything that came out in this pile, and that was about this heartache that you're going to learn from, and you're growing closer to yourself. These restraints and these restrictions, it's just like school. It's just like the education system, right? You don't necessarily want to tell a kindergarten or first grader that, yes, you can subtract a bigger number from a small number because we're trying to teach you how to do subtraction before we even teach you about negative numbers, right? Before we even go that far, we're just trying to teach you how to do subtraction and addition before we move on to multiplication and division, before we make it more and more and more complicated. And that's something like I kind of sort of looked at it in high school. It's like, Math class in particular is a series of lies that they tell us. Even science, in some ways, is a series of lies that they tell us while we're learning. And then we come back and we're like, oh, you actually can do this. Oh, like, I know, like, you were taught that you can't do this, but now we're going to learn the cases in which you actually can do this. And I'm like, I mean, it's just one of those ways that some things reflect other things. But I remember picking up on that every time they're like, "Oh yeah, now we can do this. Oh yeah, now we can do this." And then even when you go into like higher levels of whatever, it comes under the guise of assumptions, right? We're going to assume that this is ideal. We're going to assume it's this way. We're going to assume that. We're going to assume this. And then when it gets tougher, it's like, okay, we're going to remove those assumptions. Now we're going to tackle the cases that aren't as simple. But it's like you need that oversimplification to begin to learn. And that's what a lot of those heartbreaks and restrictions and stuff like that is to teach you, is to get you to come into that, because it's free will, it's a choice. Like for me personally, right, I had to choose to interpret the situation in a way that wasn't from that space of heartache. I had to choose to take the higher levels of perception and knowledge that I have available to me, to then begin to see that situation as the truths of why it was happening, instead of the person who was acting in the way, or the people who were acting in a way, or the projection that I was putting out to get me to see and reach the point that I needed to reach within myself to reach that point, right? And so it's like, but in me choosing to make the decision to perceive it in a different way, and then me choosing to make the decisions that I made, I actually came upon a truth of myself that if it were just revealed to me, wouldn't have the same weight. And so that's why sometimes the mind your business card comes out. If you haven't watched my other videos, if a deck comes with a title card, oh my gosh, this is the only deck in which I don't do it. It's time to fix it right now. It's time to fix it right now. This isn't a title card, but it's a certificate. It's the dedication card. And this is the only one I had one, but I'm gonna see it because the card back is different. Now with my other card backs, like, or with my other title cards, the card backs are the same. No, I take that back, because in the vice versa, the title card isn't the same, and I've gotten the title card in that deck. So wow, the title card is now in this deck as well. But I leave the title. I mean, I honestly maybe don't need it for this deck, because sometimes this deck is pretty good at, like, they're not supposed to know, they're supposed to make the decision on their own. And even if the deck doesn't have a title card, sometimes I'll feel that, right? And so sometimes, if I am on here and if I am pulling cards, especially if someone's asking me a question, and it's not only the line of questioning and the way that people talk, it's just a sort of vibe that I get in general. It's like, bottom of the deck is that moon card, exactly. There are some things that you're just like, you're not supposed to know, because you're supposed to reach the point in which you decide. But yeah, so the title card is in this deck now. I was like, I have it in all the decks that come with the title card, and then here I am using this one deck that it isn't. But sometimes, again, it's all about the experience, and it's all about the points that we make. Because just like the story of Hercules, like, if you tell someone you need to be a hero, it's just like, honestly, with some organized religions, it's like, you got to be good to get to heaven. And then you come across people that'll be like, you're lucky I'm saved. If I wasn't saved, I would do this and do that, but I'm trying to go to heaven, so I'll be nice. But then you're speaking from a space where the truth is already being revealed through your words, where your heart is. And it's all about where your heart is, because God is love. And so you're supposed to be aligning with love. So you can try to act like you're doing this and you're doing that, but if the love isn't in the heart when you're in that space, then it's an ungodly action. So it doesn't matter if you go through with doing it or not, because your heart has already committed sin. You know what I mean? I mean, I guess not necessarily, but you know, because the image isn't necessarily the body. The image is the heart. It's the soul, right? Maybe the image of God that we're made in is His heart and not the soul, because God is love. But lower love comes from the heart. Higher love comes from the soul, right? The higher heart it's in the realm of the soul, because the lower heart, the lower mind is the filter of the experience that we have. Anyway, I just took the picture for the thumbnail. I'm going to put this up now. I'm gonna get one final message from the cards, not from the dice, but from the cards, and then I'm gonna wrap this up and I'm gonna go about my day. I'm gonna go about my day. I'm gonna take you for a ride. What was that? Gonna take you for a ride. Dun, dun. It would be so funny. I put the title card in this deck and I haven't even seen it. I'm like, it'll stand out so much. Oh, I think I just saw it. I just saw a flash of it. I was like, there's no way I'm not gonna see this thing. It's the only like on the sea of everything else, it stands out. But yeah, all of that. The heartache and the heartbreak is to get you to align closer with yourself. Because just like in Hercules, and then Hercules is like, I'm a hero. Like, I've done this and I've done that, and I have action figures. I'm the biggest hero in the world. And Zeus is like, I'm sorry, but I'm afraid you haven't proven yourself a true hero. Because you're doing all of these things to claim the title of hero. You're not doing them from a space that is actually heroic. And then Hercules is like, I don't understand, right? And then he makes a decision out of love, and then when he makes that decision, he becomes a true hero. Because that's what it's about. It's about the space from which you make the decisions, not about the decisions that you make. Oh, I love that. I love that. It's about the space from which you make the decisions, not the decisions that you make. And that's why the title card comes out. Because the decision isn't what's important. It's the space that you're in when you make it that is. And so that's why sometimes it's important for you to not know what's happening. Because again, the decision isn't what's important. The card that just came out is the Six of Cups. Is this the Memory Keeper? The Six of Cups, the Memory Keeper. Ooh, I love this card. This card could be signifying of soulmates. You see the lovers as the Phoenix and the Dragon as babies. I guess this could, in this deck, maybe it could be a. I'm not gonna go that far. Bottom of the deck is the Ace of Swords. This is all about. I've been feeling the Six of Chords. Maybe somebody need to cut some cords to the past. Maybe somebody need to cut out some toxic. I've been feeling the Six of Cups, the Six of Chalices, as rewriting our story, right? And so to me, that's all about going back to the past and injecting with that Ace of Swords, injecting some truth and injecting some clarity from this change of perspective that it's possible for you to have, right? When we're talking about the Three of Swords and all of that, backed by the Justice card, and then the Six of Swords coming out, followed by Apocalypse and all the Eight of Cups. It's like rewriting that story to take you out of the space of a victim and to put you in the space of someone who needed to go through this to reach this point. Someone for which this hardship was necessary to get me to heal out of that. Because once you heal from that, it's like you unlock greater reserves of love within you. And once you unlock those greater reserves of love, not only are you less affected by the situations of the past, but when you come upon someone else in that situation, you can offer them help and guidance and advice from a space of healing instead of from a space of like hurt and pain, right? Like, oh, somebody did this to me. And when they did that to me, you know what I did? I went and I keyed their car. Because, what we shouldn't be encouraging people to do, maybe, is keying other people's cars, right? Oh, if somebody would have did this to me, I would have done this and I would have done that. And then you give worse advice, and they kind of sort of end up worse off than they were before they met you because you give them bad advice. And then they go and do something. And then, like, you get a letter from the county jail, you get a call from the county jail one day, and someone was like, yeah, I listened to what you said, and I went and keyed his car, and I kind of went a little bit overboard, and they called the cops, and now I'm locked up. And like, girl, it's crazy. And you're like, what? Really, girl? Wow, that's wild. How did that happen? That's so crazy. And then it's like, somebody at the record keepers upstairs, they're like giving you a little tick, like, oh, your actions caused this to happen. Everyone's liable for their own actions, but we also maybe are held partially responsible for the things that we encourage other people to do. So then it's like you don't get all of that karma, but I mean, you were kind of sort of an integral piece of this. You were a key player in this happening. So I mean, you don't get off completely scot free, right? What was I talking about? Why was I talking about that? I don't know. I don't remember. Okay. Everything's put away. I'm gonna shut this down. I hope you have a good whatever. Whenever you see this, If the timestamps, I mean, this is the end of the video, so I don't even got to say nothing else, but I'll go back and timestamp this if I have time later. Um, Maybe when I'm eating my cheese and wine and crackers, I'll listen back a little bit and timestamp it because there's some good stuff in here. I think maybe not for you, but I think there was some decent stuff in here. Um, but yeah, a lot of folks may be in this in between period, in this in between point, and the in between period and point is, again, is that valley of judgment. So on my legacy channel, Rio Koruk, RIOKORUK, the most recent upload, which was an accident, it was supposed to be over here. But should you stay or should you go? The valley of judgment came out, and judgment came out in reverse, and it's all about in this period of delay, in this period of, it's not even delay. But it's like while you're at the train station waiting for your train to come, don't fall asleep because somebody might not wake you up and you might miss it, right? But it's not for you to doubt or question or worry or fret in this period of time. It's for you to continue to prepare in whatever way you are already naturally preparing. Right? Don't come to me asking me like, well, what can I do to prepare? What can I do to prepare? Like, I don't know. It's your journey. It's your ticket. You waiting on your train. How am I supposed to know what you're supposed to do? You should know what you're supposed to do. And a lot of times it's stuff that you're already doing. It's directions that you already feel called to go in. It's things that you already know you should be doing. A lot of times it's things that you already know. It's like regardless of who I talk to, when someone's like asking me for advice or when they're like, what should I do? Like, I don't know. I'm like so confused. I'm like, well, like what do you feel led to do? And then they tell me and I'm like, that sounds exactly like you're supposed to be doing right now, but you're just not doing it. And I'm like, oh yeah, because this or that. Like, and it doesn't even have to be spiritually related, it could be anything. It's like, man, I need some ideas on how to do this, or I need some ideas on how to do that. Well, it's like, okay, well, what are some of the things that you've been sort of like batting around thinking about? It's like, well, I've been thinking about doing this, but I'm not necessarily comfortable. It's like, well, that sounds to me like you know exactly what you need to be doing. It may not be comfortable, but that's what you need to be doing. Like progress isn't always comfortable. Like they call it a comfort zone for a reason, right? It's like, but if you're not comfortable where you are, if you're not comfortable where you are, it sounds like you're going to have to leave your comfort zone. If you're not comfortable where you are, you're going to have to leave that comfort zone. Um, right. Growth. It's just like the I Ching said, was that dark in the light about the seed that is going through all the resistance of the earth and that it's doing all of this growing on the underground, and then eventually it's going to breach the surface and then you'll see the green, right? But just because you don't see the green doesn't mean that the seed isn't growing underground. But it's just like, a chick hatching from an egg. You got to break the egg from the inside. Like mama hen doesn't come and break the egg from the outside. No, the chick breaks the egg from the inside. You got to break through. You got to break free. Everything that the chick needs is already there. Like the chick is already a chick. You got to break the egg, and then mama hen can start to take care of you, right? Because it's like if you ain't moving, if you ain't making no noise, if you ain't shaking and vibrating, how is she supposed to know that like you're ready? You show her that you're ready when you break the shell on that egg. And that's where I'm going to end this. Have a good whatever. Whenever you see this, I hope this finds you well. If it doesn't find you well, I hope you get better. And if you can't get better, then I hope you don't get too much worse. And if you're the type of person who's like, I'm having a bad day and I want to have a bad day, don't tell me to have a good day. I hope you're having the time that you want to have right now. There you go. I hope you are having the time that you wish to have right now. And if you aren't having the time that you wish to have, I hope you get closer to it. Y'all see my Jupiter in Libra? I'm just trying to be like, here, I'll just give it to you the way you want it. Okay?